Hey, everybody. It's the Movie Date with Rob and Matt. It's a podcast for people who love talking about movies and don't want to be too smug about it. I am Matt.
I'm Rob.
And we've got a guest again on our who's been sitting patiently as we've been talking about other things.
We talked about Watchmen, the HBO show,
For about
like
30
9
minutes.
minutes
As Ryan here has been patiently waiting.
How's it going?
Today, we're talking about the movie everyone wants to talk about. It's easily one of the most controversial movies
Of all time.
Of the last. It's easily in the top 5. The My Little Pony movie. Bronies are
we never got around to
they're a
it.
stiff lot. They have deep knowledge of this mythology and they're not happy.
Patton Oswalt had that great bit with when he had a great stand-up bit where he's talking about like I don't want to inundate my daughter with all the minutia of nerdiness that like I know everything about Star Wars. I know everything about.
Is this when he was on Stephen Colbert where they had the Lord of the Rings question?
Yes,
or whatever?
Yeah, I know everything about this, and I'm just like, so I decided just to sit around and watch My Little Pony with her and everything.
Jesus.
And then he's like, but then the lore has it so that Princess Celestia is, and he essentially is talking about just going down the wiki hole and learning all these things. And I'm like, yeah, he just never ends.
Yeah.
There's always a wiki.
Anything that in pop culture that you love will have a Wikipedia article, as you say, longer than the biography of Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, again, Boba Fett's wiki is longer than Abraham Lincoln.
It's longer than his presence in the movies, which is like they have fan written that character into greatness that he did not deserve.
No.
In a way.
He ain't in this movie though.
No, he's not. We're talking
all right, Rob?
We're talking Last Jedi for the people who
Yeah.
are like, what are they talking about?
Maybe a little.
Little Pony,
I haven't
of
had my
course.
coffee
Yeah.
today, so I'm a little sleepy head today.
No,
but
it's all right. I'm good. I was doing some music before you got here. I was editing guitar tracks and stuff. Yeah. And that's good. How are you doing?
Hey, like I said, just a little sleepy head today. Trying to get that energy up before because this is going to be an interesting discussion.
Yeah.
Of course, last time we talked The Force Awakens, our kind of feelings on it when we first saw it and things like that. And now,
Anyone who follows this podcast knows we already have The Rise of Skywalker and review up, and we also did The Mandalorian in that same episode.
and I mean, Ryan, if you want to pop in, talk a little bit about Rise of Skywalker in
Or
regards
Mandalorian.
to this.
Well, I loved The Mandalorian. I really can't wait for season
Hell yeah,
2.
dude.
Yeah.
It's
Thankfully,
show
it
rules.
got done right before
Yeah.
Right for the
COVID
pandemic.
hit, so
Yeah.
we will still get it.
I feel like Mandalorian is probably the most refreshing Star Wars experience I have experienced. Like because I've always the original trilogy has always been there, and then like when you
But you
watch
can't find the originals anymore because of
you watch The
Lucas.
Mandalorian and it has that
I've got him on VHS.
it has that perfect balance
Blu-ray,
of
Disney.
like you know the elements that are in there, but like it doesn't hammer it like on it so hard that it lets itself be its own thing. It's like this Western like cowboy samurai guy going into town and just
Me and Matt brought up the point that it is essentially like a show like Bonanza,
yeah.
but Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's in a
also-
format that definitely suits it too. So I
it's
don't
the
know
lone-
this would work in like a movie setting.
No, but they've
I mean, you
talked
could
about
have like a Mandalorian like
you could do a movie, but like you can't do this story as a
Right.
movie. You'd have to write a new one that could fit into 2.5 hours or whatever.
it's doing what so much of that fan culture had been doing for so long, which is like
Exploring
this
the mythos.
universe rules, and there's a lot of fun you can have in
Yeah.
it. And they finally did something with it.
Yeah, like
it's not
like-
so adherent to the larger main story arc.
Yes.
Yeah, we've known about if you read any of the books or you play the games, especially the Old Republic stuff and the new Old Republic that they released. The one with the great cutscenes, it looks like it was a PS2 game for 2007.
Yeah.
Get it together, Lucasfilm. Or EA, I should say, because they're the people that make those. We've known about the Mandalorians for forever. But they're never mentioned in any movie. So this is the ultimate, like, going into the Silmarillion and picking a thing and being like, we're going to do a show about that.
It's the Disney Pixar, not Disney Pixar, but Disney Star Wars deal where it's like everything that was made was not canon, but we'll pick things up that we want.
Yeah.
Like Thrawn.
Space Spartans,
Yeah.
which is basically.
And this could have very easily turned into like one of those, well, we know you like Boba Fett, so we're going to give you all this Boba Fett stuff. And then like it's just like a.
They were. Josh Trank was going to make.
It's just going to be like a laundry list of things that you recognize, but they don't go in that direction. And I appreciate they introduce new things that are interesting and you like the I have spoken guy.
Yeah.
I like him and he's new and he's not
Nolte in a
something you
costume.
recognize.
Yeah,
And
the fact that they're able to make it into Lone Wolf and the Cub by giving him the child, and the child, of course, is Baby Yoda is a cultural icon now on the level of Pikachu or R2D2, and yet he fits the story perfectly. Like it's just like, oh, this character is really this dynamic could potentially not work because you've saddled this badass with a baby, yet it works amazingly.
Yeah. The only criticisms I ever have of it were the fact that like the show felt so big in scope but so small in practicality. So like every time you go to a place, it's one of the environments are always like it's a forest place, snow place, a desert place, it just gets
Lava
boring.
place,
lava
yeah.
place, just like
prison ship.
yeah, the prison ship. But again, like every time we go to a place, it's like a giant expansive world, and then there's like a small thing of like 50 people.
Yeah.
Like Navarro is like a town of 50 people.
Yeah.
On a planet.
But I think Star Wars
they're
has
old
that
West
problem in
village-
general,
they're
though, because
old
everything
West
has to be
towns.
its own planet.
I agree, but I was also like, this is a bounty hunter guy. Can we go to some cities? Can we see some more aliens? Like not in like 3 people at a time or whatever. Like I know it's a bit. I know that it's like it's TV. But they gave a lot of money to this show. I think there was they spent like $70 to $80 million making it.
Well, yeah, spare
And
no
I was-
expense.
Yeah, and I was like
Star Wars.
the show where they teach the farmers how to fight. Like that's like a big forest planet and a little tiny village, and you got like even the Bill Burr episode is like you have this little space freighter and then just nothingness forever. Like I want to feel like he exists in a bigger world, and so far I don't feel that yet.
Do you not really get that from like that? So like there's like where he goes off on those little adventures, and then there's base, like where like he goes and he gets his
Targa and all that.
yeah, he goes and he gets his armor, and then he gets his missions and stuff. Like that's kind of like a city-ish kind of location.
Yeah, that's about as close as we come.
Yeah.
And I think I want.
And there's like that,
place
criminal
that place
underbelly.
is like if like next to Mos Eisley, it's like the college town.
Yeah.
It's like the college town that's a little bigger and like has a lot more things going
it's
on.
the hub world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think what it is like I want him to do
Mando.
I want him to do like true detectiving, where like he's in a city and he has to go to a place and investigate, and this leads him to there, which leads him to there. Like I want like a
he starts drinking Texas beers and
because
smoking.
being a bounty hunter is more than you go to a place and you find the guy. Sometimes you have to find the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the best way to do that is like some investigating. Like I want a little bit of that, not enough to where
You
it's
want like the detective aspect of it.
A little bit.
I do too.
Yeah.
I want no,
and just
some
like
noir
I
aspect.
want to feel like and a great thing to add would be like another bounty hunter who knows his shit, not just like a person that he can kill like the lizard people or whatever.
What about
the
that
Bosks.
lady, the retired one that like he teams up with at the end?
She's all right, but like no, I mean as an antagonist.
Oh,
someone
yeah.
who's also going after him, and it's like
his
I thought we definitely would have gotten that in that
his
series.
Belloc, who's just always like, I'm always
just a
one
step
step
ahead.
ahead of you.
Yeah, and like just shows that even though he has this armor and this jetpack and all these great gadgets, like it's still like there are other people who are just as skilled at this.
Yeah, I can't
And,
wait
like,
to. I can't wait
and
to
also
see,
he lives on like the outskirts of the galaxy, which is
Yeah.
why he takes these nothing kind of smaller jobs. I want him to go to like the big city where there's like it's a gauntlet of ruthless bounty hunters, and they're
Yeah.
all good.
I mean, that's
at what
why.
they
I
do.
mean, that's why in Star Wars, it's one scene where you get a bunch of guys with whatever like costumes you had on set, and throw them up on a balcony, and just like bounty hunters. We don't need their scum. And
Yeah.
those characters are now legends.
Yeah.
Like it's
These
just a
nothing
guy. It's just a
characters
guy
that
in a
could've
lizard
just been-
mask. And
Yeah.
no, that's Bosk.
Yeah.
It's a guy in mummy wraps.
Yeah.
No, that's Dengar.
Yeah.
I don't know if I hear a lot about Dengar. Definitely about Bosk and IG-88
Yeah.
are like super fan like things.
They've written
Dengar's
things where
pretty
they
And then there's
cool.
like the little the insect one.
Yeah,
What? I don't know
Forlom.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
know
know
who you're
that
talking
one.
about.
There's Forlom, Bosk, Dengar, Boba Fett,
Yeah.
IG-88, and then the other guy with a little shotgun.
I actually went downtown with 2 buddies of mine, and there was like a like a coffee shop, and they were doing like a Star Wars trivia night, and that's the only reason we went. We wrecked shop, by the way, and like I think we missed like 2 questions out of them, and one of them was how many bounty hunters were on that thing, and I swore by like a certain number, and I think I missed the bug man.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, I forgot him.
It's a 4 or 5. Yeah. It's one of those.
Yeah. It's
Yeah. That's all I ever.
because there's like 2 small robot bug looking guys. And it's like
Yeah.
those guys would be the same dude.
I think all it is, I just want him to be in an environment where there's more than 30 people in any shot. Like, I think that's really all it is. It's a great show. Do you want to briefly talk about Rise of Skywalker? And we'll get into
I don't really
TLJ?
have much to say about Rise of Skywalker because it's not really fresh on my mind. I rewatched Last Jedi in preparation for this, but I haven't watched Rise of Skywalker since I first watched it, and I actively went into it turning my brain off because I was tired of being angry, and I just wanted to enjoy Star Wars. And I got what I wanted out of it. I knew at some points I wanted to turn my brain on to ask questions, but I decided not to, and I enjoyed it for what it was, and it was great.
I appreciate your ability to meditate your way through that. I mean, Rob, you were there when we watched.
I feel like I have
You had a better time than I did.
I had a great time because
I've seen too many movies. I asked the question. I can't help but ask the question.
Yeah, you kept leaning in, and I was just like, Rob,
Stop it.
I'm literally tearing up right now.
Yeah,
at
like
this
Wedge
movie
came
that
back.
I don't like.
Wedge came back, and he was like, "Yes," and I was like, "That's all right."
He's there for Wedge is there for a hot second.
It might as well be
right
a green
before
screen.
right after his like adopted son dies.
Yeah.
like right after Snap Wexley gets blown up.
don't count.
And it's just like I just don't think that they told the actor what was going on. They just put him in a booth, and
Well, he
just
famously said, "I'll never come back to Star Wars." Or
yeah,
whatever.
it's like
He
I
used
got
to say
better things to do. And I'm like, yeah, that paycheck.
like what? Like, what are you
he's
in
a
now?
British theater actor. He's
Theater.
doing fine.
Richard
Ewan
III.
McGregor is his
nephew.
nephew.
Yep.
nepotism.
I went to the theater to watch Uncle Dennis.
Anyway, so we're talking
the Star Wars.
So we're talking TLJ
Talking TLJ.
by Rian Johnson.
Yep.
Who is the only person this sequel of this prequel trilogy who kind of got to tell his story. Gareth Evans, or is it Edwards?
Gareth
He
Edwards.
did Rogue One.
Yep.
Had that movie kind of taken away and reshot, and because he
Ron
played
Howard or Chris Miller and Phil Lord.
redesigned that one. Like in Gareth Edwards, because he kind of played ball, he got to shoot that Vader scene. And stuff, but like they literally took
as a treat.
Yeah, they took the film away from him and had someone else shoot it.
That
as,
sucks.
while
I
he was
didn't
doing
know
it.
that.
And yeah, it's quite like it was
And
like
it
2 months.
shows.
It was like a month and a half of reshoot. Some people say reshoot saved that movie. I think they might have
killed it.
been some of the reasons that it's clunky. The action at the end.
You could almost say
is-
it's McClunky.
I have a lot of thoughts on Rogue One, and I always point to when everyone says how amazing it is, there's like, are you talking about the last 30 minutes of the film, or are you talking about all of it? Because when you look back to that first hour and some change, you don't remember a lot from it. And
It's a lot of talking to people and going to
and like
places.
I sometimes I challenge people to name somebody that isn't Jyn Erso or Cassian Andor. Name 3 of the other people in that squad.
Chirrut Imwe is the one I remember.
Chirrut Imwe. Yeah, I can't pronounce that name.
What's the guy with the crossbow? Craig something?
Well,
Something like that. Yeah, I don't know.
the defector who is played by Riz Ahmed.
I know them by like what they call you're the pilot, and like I don't
Alan
remember that
Tudyk
guy's name.
is the droid,
Dude,
K2SO.
K2SO
rules.
Okay.
Like, he's kind of great.
I find that answer vague and unconvincing.
I was actually thinking about that on the way over here. I was like, I'm wondering if he would be able to do that just out of a whim of looking things up. But
Well, Galen Erso, I mean, because I just love Mads Mikkelsen.
Yeah, it's great.
And Krennic is a really... I don't know if he's a good villain. I just love that design.
I think he
the Ben
means like our
Mendelsohn.
main team.
yeah, I just feel like
know half
most
of
of the
them.
main cast is not very memorable, and like you don't get to spend enough time with them. You don't like them particularly.
Yeah.
And it's just
I think.
I mean, they get to play with some interesting stuff.
but they do something cool at the end,
Donnie
and that makes you forget everything about the first half of that movie,
Yeah.
and then you
and you'll get someone making like a meta argument. Well, they're the forgotten heroes of the rebellion. Of course, we don't care about them because they do the thing that we don't even think
That's a
about.
bad
in the first
argument.
place.
I
That's
didn't-
a terrible argument.
I didn't know who the Guardians
Even
of the
if I don't-
Galaxy were
even if I
before
like
I
this
watched the movie, and I loved them.
Yeah, even
Yeah.
if I like this movie, I'm like, that's a bad
I
argument.
think the closest we come to feeling is that Mads Mikkelsen's really good, and he has some great moments that like. There's that I always say it's the best actor on a green screen talking to nobody, where he gives that speech to Jen about how being apart from her is like it breaks his heart and stuff. And I was like, that's really good. But like, yeah, for the most, Forrest Whitaker, can he act in that movie? It's weird.
No.
Like,
It's just,
and again, like
it's
that
just
was
it's a very choicey performance.
and it's a reshoot too.
Save the dream. I'm going to die here for no reason.
Because there's that one, but in the trailers it was, will you fight? What will you become?
Yeah,
and then
not in the movie.
that's not in there.
And
So,
also
like,
the whole line about like where Jen Erso says like I'm a rebel, I rebel, right? That's not in the movie.
that's not in there. There's other things that aren't in there.
I don't like that line.
The
That
part
line
where
is
the
super cheesy,
part where the
but-
TIE fighter comes
That
up
doesn't
on the thing,
happen.
And you
Oh.
but you see the scene right before it happened. You see her walk across it. So like all these things that Gareth Edwards shot, like someone brought this, Mr. Sunday Movies brought this up and when he was talking about it, which is Gareth Edwards is great with scale. The Godzilla movie is all about like
All
scale.
scale, yeah.
And like when you see the TIE fighter come up,
It's
it's
like, that's a
it's-
big TIE
it's
fighter.
big and it's scary.
That's what all of them look like.
and like and I really wanted to see his like the what's it called, the Wild Bunch or something like that.
That's kind of what I was hoping the movie would be.
And it kind of is,
like
and
the
it kind
Dirty
of isn't.
Dozen with the rebels. Like
Yeah.
the Dirty
Even like
Dozen and
the
Star
like the
Wars.
upward angles of the AT-ATs walking, like
They're
they
big.
look
Yeah,
so
they
huge.
tower over you.
Yeah.
Especially since it's just a bunch of
It's
people running.
It's supposed to
towards them.
psychologically make you feel like these are just small troops and they have no chance. Which is why when like Red Leader comes and like they launch a full assault on Scarif or whatever, it's thrilling and it's cool and like the action saves that movie.
I do think it is kind of cute that there's a Red 5 before Luke became Red 5.
Yeah,
like,
he
like
gets killed.
minutes later.
Slide him in there. Slide the new guy in there.
That's why he's Red 5.
Red 5 always gets killed. We don't like this kid. Slide him in there. He
Top
talked.
opening.
We were in the middle of that.
Cover me, Porkins.
It's that Family Guy joke. We were in the middle of that circle talking about like, oh come on, I bullseye womp rats with my T16. Like you really called me out there, man. Make him Red 5. Like, so yeah, but like Rian Johnson is the only one that got to tell his movie unimpeded.
Written to directed.
Some people say that's a bad thing. I think movies by committee will always be worse than movies by just one
By
person.
a lone wolf.
even if it's flawed or it's overly ambitious, I would rather have an overly ambitious failure than like a corporate thingy.
But is written and directing one part in a 3-act play really being a written and directed story?
That's true.
That's really your vision.
Because I think it was I think it started off as JJ gets the first one, Ryan gets the second
next
one.
one,
We
and-
kind of know where it's going, and then the neckbeards came after TL. They came at Force
Then
Awakens,
the
but then
neckbeards came.
But TLJ happened, and they were having none of it.
It destroyed the whole universe.
Yeah.
Like we had to recreate the universe afterwards.
Yeah, and like,
but also originally.
But you're right.
It was going to be I forgot his name. 'Cause I
Colin
thought
Trevorrow.
It was going to be Colin Trevorrow.
it was going to be called The Duel of the Fates.
And that script
And
got
Matt Smith was going to be the
allegedly-
young emperor, and there was going to be stuff about Snoke and stuff in it. Like,
Well, they got that leaked script that he wrote or did work on, Colin Trevorrow. At least I think he confirmed that was his script.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like.
did you read it?
Yeah.
Was there good stuff in it?
There's some good stuff in it.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff I didn't like. In fact, there's a lot of stuff I'm like, oh, good, they did that in Rise of Skywalker.
Oh.
Because it's got some really cool moments and some moments that really are refreshing. It's again 50-50. It's kind of got some up and downs there.
Yeah.
But he did. Everyone was like, "Oh, Colin Trevorrow's going to do the third one," and then he did Book of Henry, and it was a disaster and one of the most funny bad movies in a long time.
I
And
never
like,
saw it.
Nope, we are pulling that movie from you, and then. Like you said, the fandom strikes back, and they panicked and gave it back to JJ.
Yeah,
and
the Redditors gave J.J. Abrams their script notes.
I wonder what the original trilogy would be like if Reddit existed when they came out.
It would be make Boba Fett, like, give Boba Fett a big action scene and make him kill everybody.
yeah, Boba Fett.
Because that's good content.
There would
when
be-
people are invincible, and that's what,
There would have been a fight in Return of the Jedi where Boba Fett would have landed on Endor, and him and Han would have had a fist fight
Oh,
and everything.
God.
That would be kind of cool.
I know.
Just Indiana Jones
sounds
punch.
really
You're,
neat.
you're too good at what you do, man.
Yeah, I
you're
know.
not channeling your inner neckbeard enough to make the idea bad. and
I
it should
shaved
be.
that neck beard. It's stylized.
Yeah, but
Flamethrower needs to atomize one of the rebels.
yeah.
He needs to disintegrate like Darth Vader tells him not to do.
Yeah. Anyway,
and he even makes a note of it, like no disintegration.
There's a Mr. Sunday Movies had a great idea that Boba Fett is just a guy who's fumbled his way to the top.
Yeah.
Like a guy, there's like a bounty hunter is shoving his guy up to the head bounty who gives him his money or whatever, and then like he trips and shoots himself in the head, and then Boba Fett's like, yeah, get in there.
He fails.
You've done it again, Boba Fett. And he goes, yep, I'm the best.
Yeah.
Like, and that's how Boba Fett became
kind of a
like
big
ruthless. He found cool armor and stuff. Like, I love the idea.
That's what I love about, and I think they mentioned
just because it would make everyone mad.
I think they mentioned this in the Clone Wars cartoons, is like that Boba Fett and particularly Jango Fett are not Mandalorians.
Yeah.
No.
It's stolen valor.
Yeah,
and
Mandalorians
because they don't
are
follow the code or
Yeah.
anything. Because even though Mando, who's the character's name I forgot.
Din Djarin.
Yeah, Din Djarin is not I guess an ethnic Mandalorian himself. He's an adopted Mandalorian. He follows the code. It's about the code of valor.
In true Star Wars fashion, his name is a one syllable followed by a two syllable.
Yeah, Din
Djarin. Jin Urso. Like they're always
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
that doesn't count. Obi-Wan or something like that.
Obi.
I thought you meant Old Ben.
Or Ben Kenobi. Ben Kenobi.
Old Ben.
I don't know. Okay, my thing is wrong.
Luke Skywalker.
Leia Organa.
Yeah. But all their first names are short first names followed by Han, like in Solo.
Ray.
Han Solo. Yeah.
Palpatine.
Chewbacca.
Chewbacca.
Chewie. It's always Chewie though.
Chewie.
Yeah. Poe.
Dameron.
Luke.
Yeah.
Leia. Han. Jin. Din. Whatever Gina Carano's character's name.
Cassian Andor.
Bill Burr.
Cassian Andor. That's such a cool name, though.
Yeah.
I have two friends of mine that are having a kid named Cassian.
It's a good name.
Yeah.
But yeah, back to TLJ.
So let's go ahead and scoot us back to the year 2017.
17?
Yeah, because I saw it when I was living in New York.
Yeah.
Actually, I remember we had gotten tickets ahead of time and went into the city to go see it. And when we got in, the theater was so packed there were people just sitting on the ground.
See,
And-
mine was like the I went in there and there was like a
do
bunch of
stuff
empty
like that
seats because
anymore.
I went early in the morning, like 10 o'clock, because I was like, I don't have anything to do. I'm going to see Last Jedi. Like,
I think we gave it about a week.
Yeah.
So that, and then when we got there, it was just like I think we both just went no and walked out and waited for another hour and ordered a new one.
Yeah.
So we wasted a lot of money trying to go see this movie, and we still saw it in a pretty packed theater.
Yeah. Yep.
Which, I mean, pretty cool to see that movie in a packed theater in New York. But,
So when you guys walked into the movie, what were your expectations?
Mine were
going off?
insanely high because I had spent the last 2 years like speculating on
And defending
and The Force Awakens. I
defending
loved
Force
it.
Awakens,
I
yeah.
loved it. I loved like all the questions it left me with. I loved how it made me feel, and I was just like, now I get to chase this feeling. This is going to be great. I bought my tickets the day that they dropped. I went to the first available screening of it, or whatever, like that was available to the public, and I was super excited.
Yeah.
That my expectations were on the ceiling.
as we mentioned before, I had been a fan of Rian Johnson for some time since Brick, and I was
Looper.
like, Looper I enjoyed a lot, and I was just like, giving him Star Wars was such a smart move to me.
Yeah.
And after, I think at that point, that's what got my hype up, because I'm like, you got a guy who has a point of view, who's a director who really
And he's
has
working on your favorite thing. Which
he's
is
working
Star
on
Wars.
a favorite thing, and I'm like, so his sensibilities.
Didn't he do Breaking Bad episodes too?
Yeah,
I think he did a couple. Yeah,
he did Ozymandias. He did like the most famous
Oh, that's so
episode.
good.
So I already had a lot of big love for Rian Johnson getting this. I felt really proud of him that he's going to get this big thing, and it's going to be so clearly his point of view. But I don't really recall what my feelings were like when the trailers came out and things like that. Like, it was so just
trailers
like,
were famously underwhelming. Because
Yeah.
Rian Johnson kind of said, I kind of would rather you not see the trailers, but I have to have trailers because they said so.
yeah,
Yeah.
compared to the Force Awakens trailers, which you could still go back to and
Nothing
for your
will ever
daily
touch
dose
Endless
of,
hype.
for your daily dose of goosebumps. TLJ's was just kind of, let's just go see the movie. Let's just get our seats. And
I
go
think
see
that was the
movie.
beginning of the end for the movie. People saw those trailers, they're like, oh, it's not blowing me away and stuff. Like, it's not having that big moment or whatever. And Luke's like, oh, let's let the Jedi end. Boo. Like,
Anyway, we'll get into the philosophy of
so let's get into the...
There's a lot to talk about here.
So the movie came out, and you thought what? My expectations were also high, blah, 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 blah.
Okay, so what I feel now is a lot different than what I felt then.
How did you feel then?
Yeah, what did you feel
I
at
was
that moment?
upset because I feel like The Force Awakens, like whether this is to the credit of The Last Jedi going in its own direction or not, The Force Awakens leaves you with very big questions that you really want answered. And The Last Jedi almost goes out of its way to subvert your expectations. In like
that's in the graphic I made as a cinematic failure or bold subversion.
Red Letter Media like did this perfect, like very 5-second film of their guy Rich Evans. He orders like a bottle of wine and then he has like a little glass and then he moves to pour the wine into the glass, but then he moves it and he pours it onto the table and he's like, this is what The Last Jedi is. And I was just like, yeah. And I just remember feeling so upset that
is it mostly the raised parents?
No,
we'll get into that in specifics, but you can keep going.
It wasn't like one thing over the other making me mad. It was just like all of them like together. It was just like they were just being subverted so much that I was just like, okay, so I mean, it kind of was the raised parents thing because they built it up so much in The Force Awakens. Like Maz Kanata's like, who's the girl? Han Solo seems to know who she is, and they're this whole who are you like theme that's in The Force Awakens. I mean, I'm like upon like meditation, I'm not so upset that she's like her own person. Like that's fine, but set it up that way too. Don't make it to where everybody else knows who she is already.
It wouldn't be a subversion because if you set it up, then it's just like what you set up.
No, but don't then have the absence of setting it up where people know who she is then, because she can definitely be her own person. I actually advocate for it because I like the Spider-Man approach to it, where like anybody can be Spider-Man, and that's what's great about it.
The Iron Giant, like you are who you choose to be. He wants to be Superman or whatever.
But the fact that you kind of go against what came before it on purpose is what annoyed me the most.
I think there was going to be like some sort of payoff in Trevorrow's, but I think it got sidelined.
And I can kind of understand.
What was your when you came out of the movie? What were your feelings?
I think for me, it's kind of I realize this sort of thing, and it's something that we'll probably talk about a bit. Is like it's clear that Rian Johnson loves Star Wars. But also, he's taking it to task, rubbed people the wrong way a lot because it's like, yeah, I love Star Wars, but I don't love Star Wars. Like,
I'm not fanatical about it.
Star Wars is awesome. It is also not. It's also it's not infallible. And I think that's kind of what you can tell a little bit of that. That kind of becomes, I think that's what I saw a lot of when I walked out of it, is like I was very much like 50-50. I was like, there are parts of it I thought that were kind of cheesy. There was a lot of humor lines that didn't work for me.
Not to interrupt you, a lot of people going into this movie wanted it to be the Empire, the dark.
Yeah, I didn't want that.
And
I don't remember if I had any like expectations or people had mentioned anything beforehand that had kind of like tempered my viewing experience. But I remember just being like I liked it. I think I was like, I liked it, but I need more time to think on it. And as time went on,
that's the thing with you. You like to think and like.
Well, and I also
reconcile.
like to like something immediately. That's how I was.
Everyone
Rise.
does, yeah.
Was like when I walked out of Rise, I was like, I think I really like this.
Yeah.
But I need time on it, and then time showed to me that wait, no, I actually didn't like this.
Okay.
I like the experience.
Okay.
In this, I was like, the experience was so just kind of whatever. And it was more just like, what do I feel about this? So I needed some time. And then as time went on and I started seeing things come around and seeing people's reactions to it, and I think that's kind of where I'd made my stand with The Last Jedi at that point, which is I'm going to defend this movie. And I think as it seasoned like a good meal, I was just kind of like, this movie is kind of important to this series. And I think at that point I was like, I am going to recognize its faults, because there are, but overall I think I really enjoyed it when I came out, and as it went on and as I saw kind of people reacting to it, that's when I was like, all right, I'm going to make a.
It was your BVS, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I'll make a point to stand up for this movie.
Will you do me a favor? You're talking into your mic from the side, and it's giving you very low volume. Can you try to get it a little more in front of your face? I can fix it in post, but...
Is this good?
Oh, no.
Oh, no. No, I can't do that. Oh no.
So that's what
R2.
I will say I like that. Going back to the red letter media thing, I think it's just very clear that Rich hates these movies, and
Rich hates everything.
And Jay and Mike, especially with the latest thing they did for.
I mean, it's like hipsterism 101. If it's new, you hate it, and if it's old, it's timeless, and you can never beat it.
He's very curmudgeonly, and so I was kind of like, I took his expectations a little salty. I was like, it wasn't that bad, Rich. And also because it's very clear that Mike and Jay were like,
so this is where you were at when you came out of the movie.
Yeah.
So where are you at now with it?
Now, kind of like what Matt said, I let it digest a lot, and I think the good parts about it are really good. It's very cerebral, and it helps you think. I think about this a lot, but I also feel like there's 2 out of 3 plots of the movie that aren't as interesting as the third that I want to spend a lot more time with. And I feel like that those flaws.
I feel like that might be a common theme in a lot of Star Wars movies too. Like in Jedi, there's some of that.
Yes, so like I'll concede that like Endor is bad.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying I noticed that.
But yeah, I just feel like that there's redeeming qualities in it for sure. I don't 100% hate it. I don't even say I hate it really at all. I just find the not great parts just kind of whatever, and like almost like I feel it kind of unworthy of like Star Wars a little bit, but I also feel like the really good parts are really good, and I see where he's going at least with a lot of it, and that's just I've kind of made my peace with it. I'm not angry at it. I'm just like I just kind of shrug my shoulders at the stuff that I would do differently.
Yeah.
You know.
Well,
for me, I really love it, but I also concede that there feels like while it makes sense to me, I think a lot of people when they talk about it, they think about the Canto Bight sequence with Finn and Rose going on their adventure, and I think it falls in line with the excursionary sort of nature of Star Wars. Like we got to go on an adventure, and also I think this is also a product of The Force Awakens loading up so many characters.
Yeah.
And they need to give them something to do. What I think they succeed in that sequence, which isn't as exciting to me as other parts, even though is that they get to tell more of both a story about Star Wars in universe and about Star Wars in general.
Yeah.
Which is who's funding these people.
Yeah, cost of war.
Yeah, the cost of war. There's a military-industrial complex that exists here, and that there's a wealthy class and everything.
Ironically, Ryan's criticism of that is the opposite of what I think, like, to keep using the term, the neckbeard criticism of that is.
I purposefully avoid those type of arguments because, like, I see...
Because they're not interesting.
Yeah.
And they're boring. But
Like, you can tell like this. I think another thing talking about film criticism and things is that The Last Jedi kind of started the new criticism wars where we can now detect arguments
BBS
better.
was the appetizer, but people, I would say, on the whole, are a little more rabid about Star Wars than they are about like superheroes.
Yeah,
it ebbs and flows, but
you're not gonna catch me saying, "Oh, purple hair," like
that's
I have real problems with it. That I don't, you know.
But the problems we have are related
substantive.
They're not cosmetic. You know?
What do the characters say and what do the characters do? Yeah. Well, let's get into Star Wars: The Last Jedi, huh?
Let's get into the plot. Yeah, Star Wars: The Last Jedi. So we open immediately. No, we don't open immediately on.
We open on the planet.
We open on not Jakku, the green
base,
Maz Kanata's planet.
Yes, and battle is ensuing overhead.
Also, weird plot hole. Maz Kanata was at this planet and. And less than a day later, she's off somewhere doing something else.
She's not in the movie.
Yeah, I don't know how.
She's having another fun.
You think she's kind of with the rebellion, so you think she would just be with them, but
she's also kind of above it. She's also a little bit like I do my own thing. Like she's off having another movie somewhere. That's
which will be explored in like a 3-part book series that's really good.
Maz Kanata's day off, and she goes and has wacky Indiana Jones style adventures.
But we open up on that planet and we are evacuating.
Oh no, the First Order shows up.
Yeah. And they've got this super dope ship, this dreadnought.
The dreadnought.
This is something I like about this movie is it also kind of goes into the idea of just like we're going to introduce things you haven't seen before, and everyone's going to be like, we know what that is.
Yeah.
Like it's a dreadnought. This is one of the First Order's most terrifying weapons. This will really fuck us over if we don't take care of this. Yeah. And it also introduces really quick kind of what Rian Johnson's going at, which is these characters have to confront themselves in a reality.
Yeah.
And so Poe Dameron, who I think this also means he has to make these characters a little less likable, as they were so likable in Force Awakens.
Well, that's the nature of when you deconstruct something.
Yeah, is you have to you're satirizing essentially,
or you have to reconcile things.
Because Poe is not this meatheaded in The Force Awakens, so he's kind of
he's only not meatheaded because you don't ask like questions like
he's just the chummy guy in the military.
Yeah, and you don't put him in a situation where he might have to snap Zod's neck. I mean, attack the dreadnought. Yeah, it's writing characters in a way where you have to confront things about like
the Phantom Menace. Superman is the Phantom Menace.
Yeah. But like you put him in a situation, and again, like this movie, not as dark as I thought, opens up with a joke where he's like, where he goes,
this kind of these kind of.
Do you? I'm waiting for a guy named Hux, about 5'10", pasty,
ginger, essentially, and then he just like, what?
Can you hear me?
When you said last time that you felt like The Force Awakens was like it had like the Disney effect of it, this is what I think of.
Yes,
like just like kind of like that humor that like it works in the Marvel movies. Let's try it here, and it doesn't quite land.
It's the Age of Ultron. I don't think it's amazing or anything.
It's
language or whatever.
Yeah.
It's that.
It's the post-Whedon-y kind of chummy dialogue stuff, and
yeah. Oh, I have more Joss Whedon news.
I'm sure we'll hash it out at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's again coming out of the movie. I think I was just one of the things that really struck me was like who put a lot of this like humor in here. Was this Johnson?
Some of it's really clever,
Disney?
but
Rian Johnson wrote this. There's no story by X, screenplay by. It's all him.
Yeah.
That being said, you can change the script. It's just words on a page. You can change it whenever.
Because I'm wondering like how
plenty
much
of
it
actors
was
have punch-up people. I would feel so mad if I was a director and the actor brought a punch-up guy to write his own dialogue. Oof. I'd be like,
because so many A-lister guys do
Bruce
that.
Bruce Willis did that on Die Hard. Kevin Smith said so.
Really?
Yeah.
On Die Hard.
I'm his writer or whatever. On his the Live Free or Die Hard movie.
Not the original one.
The one with Justin Long. The one that's
Live Free or Die Hard.
The one that's not good,
the one
not
where they
as bad
launch
as the one that comes
car
after
into
it.
the helicopter.
Yeah, the one where they decide what makes John McClane interesting is he has superpowers or whatever.
Yeah, that was the last one that had any kind of like levity, and then by the time we get to the last one,
it's terrible.
It's just the most boring.
Yeah, but he had a punch-up guy, and there's a scene where he goes over to Kevin Smith and asks Kevin to get together with his writer and write a scene where they explain about Thomas Gabriel, which is Timothy Olyphant's character.
Timothy Olyphant's character.
He was talking shit about Timothy Olyphant. He's like, Tim's being a little bitch. He doesn't know how to act or whatever. Timothy Olyphant is a way better actor than Bruce Willis. Anyway, I'm sorry.
At the time when I saw that movie, I thought Timothy Olyphant was terrible.
Really?
That movie and Hitman. I was like, this guy's really bad.
He's had his
And then I saw Justified, and I was like, no, he's amazing.
Yeah,
he's incredible.
You take the work that you get.
Yeah,
but
So yeah, I'm not sure. There a lot of these kind of.
I think it's Rian Johnson is my point. Yeah. I don't think there's no punch up.
And it's not completely out of character for Poe. I mean, we get this like right at the beginning.
Yeah, you talk first or I talk first.
Yes, when he gets caught at the beginning of Force Awakens. So this is in character, but then it's kind of hit really hard when we get to see something. Again, we're seeing something we've known in Star Wars, but have not known the effect, which is like the cost of war, the violence of war in space combat. Like, we've watched, X-Wing pilots bite it pretty regularly, just, I'm hit! And those guys, like the ship collapses.
They become like stormtroopers in a way.
Yeah, but those guys get like roasted alive in those ships. It sucks. So this is where we also see that him and Leia are having this like practicality argument, like who's in charge here, and also I trust you for a reason, but we can't do this anymore.
Yeah,
there's a lot of we can't do this anymore. Like the not only has the world in Star Wars changed, but the world has changed.
Yeah.
Why didn't all the other pilots just listen to General Leia's radio? She was like, I disagree with you, Commander Poe. We shouldn't do that. And then
all
so
like, well,
all the other
General
pilots
said
are like,
so.
we're with you, Poe.
Insubordination.
Yeah, a bunch of people are getting court-martialed after this. Whoever's left alive.
Yeah. Well, there's no government left.
Yeah, that's right, because it got blown away in a
This
sequence
is the
no
thing
one cared
about that movie is like if J.J. Abrams directed this would be an opening chase scene as they escape from these. But Rian Johnson's like, no, let's do this thing. Rian Johnson, I can feel like when he's writing the script, he's like you write yourself into a hole and then you just look at the audience and be like, yeah, what do you think about that kind of thing? Now it's still done in a way that's
Pretty tough, huh?
It's still done in a way that's like it's entertaining, it's kind of fun, but at the end, like Leia looks at all the ships they lost and she's like, was that even worth it? Maybe not.
Well, all that spectacle was really interesting, but yeah, it's a Star War. This sucks.
Yeah, and he and you know the also I don't want to be the dude, but like just to point out negatives when you drop bombs from a bomber.
Did we have
they
that
drop
discussion?
towards
Yeah, we had that last time.
I was like thinking, who did I argue with about that?
They drop towards the planet. They don't drop towards the ship because down in space
There's
is
no such
towards a
thing.
gravity well. If it has to be gravity for there to be down. So
No, they're all self-propelled.
which also points up the fact, what's the use of slow moving fucking bombers when you could just make missiles that go towards the thing?
Yeah.
Or just have like Y
Again,
wings.
it's him writing to establish a point,
Right.
not to make sense.
And also,
which is fine.
And also, you know,
Superman could have
someone sitting there like, that's a Lego set.
Yeah.
Like one of these one of these rebel bombers, that's a Lego set. That's a toy.
And also keep in mind, children will go see these movies, and this is also about merchandising to an extent.
Yeah.
But like when he's writing to illustrate a point, which is like, you know, having giant space bombers, like people have to pilot those things and drop the bombs or whatever,
and they're not protected, and this is costly.
He's
and it costs
trying
lives.
to illustrate a cost. He's not trying to make sense.
Right.
Yeah, which is the only.
It was cool that only one of those ships destroyed the whole thing, though.
Yeah. Also,
When they had like 8 of them.
Yeah, and also it's weird that
Yeah, you could have really just protected the one.
it's weird that when they get blown up, the bombs don't make a giant explosion.
Yeah.
Because there's enough bombs on these things to blow up a dreadnought. But when you blow up the bomber with the bombs in it, it's just
It's
like
not
nothing
like-
happens. You'd think it would.
Yeah, it's not like that. Yeah, it's like a fact. It's yeah, exactly. It's like a fireworks thing going up.
Yeah.
Like it's just that kind of same deal. But no, they don't.
Yeah.
They just explode off their regular space fuel.
Yeah.
Because the bombs are inert, I guess.
It also, this is like the opening action scene, and it's kind of a good bit till we get another one in a way.
Yeah. No,
we
it's
kind of get-
it paces itself out. Pace was another thing that got me when I watched, because I break movies down. I think about them after I'm done. I was like, what did I like? And I was like, the movie's very oddly paced, and I wouldn't even say successfully well paced for even the parts that I really like.
It is long, but it feels
It is long.
It's the longest one, isn't it? Or is
Because-
Rise of Skywalker beat it now?
No, Rise of Skywalker is quite short compared to the other. I think it's the shortest of the 3 of these new ones.
Yeah, it is. Just feels long.
Yeah. But I think that, and so after they do that, Poe, like, just like,
and they lost a lot of people. We also take a moment to see Paige Tico, and who's this heroic sacrificer, and another British man on a ship dies, and
yeah, she like, that's supposed to be, her character is meant to just like show you how she dies and stuff. She dies in like wars about sacrifice and stuff, and it is. So like, when she like brings down that dreadnought, like she kamikazes herself.
Yeah, essentially. And it's just like, well, I'm got to make it happen. And it's some good tension there too, like some good like.
Will she? Won't she?
Yeah,
Will it work?
It's a little Spielbergy. It's a little kind of like not contrived, but it's kind of like
it lands on the ladder and you have to whack the ladder and stuff.
It keeps you like for a character you're only seeing for a couple of seconds who only has like the a ghost of an influence after, it's pretty intense, and you're like, you guys still feel like, oh wow, and because then you get a cool explosion and everything, and that the dreadnought goes up,
and then like Poe hightails it into that ship and lands it, and then a split second later they light speed off because Poe's cutting everything to the last second. Is what he does.
Well,
it's a great visual representation of his character.
Yes,
being like, just, I'm running and gunning, baby.
Well, it's this is something I love about this movie is it's like, yeah, he's our Han Solo, badass, shoot from the hip, but he's also not, a scoundrel. He's a professional military man.
Yeah, he's a man with a cause.
Yeah, but he's like, we did it. We blew up the monster of the week. And it's like, yeah, but everyone's dead.
And then the very next,
and we're already almost all dead.
So they take off, and the next time we see him, she slaps him and goes, "You're demoted."
Yeah, you're demoted.
Yeah.
Yes, mom.
and a very scolding matter. And I guess that's like, this is where we get our first like of the bad arguments, is like all the women are scolding scolds who make fun of or like chastise the men for making their dumb decisions or whatever. Like it's like that. And I would like to just point out that, like, while that may be true, that doesn't mean that it's wrong. And two, Leia is like, she is a general.
Yeah.
She is the commanding officer.
I think Carrie Fisher still makes her charismatic as heck, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I that's my point. It's like she's a princess, but she is a military commander. And when she says that's an order commander and he disobeys her, in the military, you get thrown into the brig.
Yeah. You get so she keeps a tight ship, and she also recognizes the losses. Like, I feel like this movie or Johnson looked at the Hosni system destruction in the last movie and was just like, that was kind of a big deal, everybody. Like, they're on their own.
They should be.
And now,
no
like,
army.
that moment that had no real impact other than visually in Force Awakens now has a big impact in this, because they're like, we're down to the wire here. We're down. No one's out there building new bombers. No one's out there recruiting new troops.
Yeah.
It's us. And so Leia's feeling the weight of that.
Yeah.
And she does a very good job.
And right after, so basically after this scene, we get the scene that is like, it's not a scene, it's an ongoing scene, essentially. That is my least favorite part. Is like, this movie is essentially about a ship running out of gas. And it's kind of boring. I get the idea is to build stakes. It makes the movie 5 hours long. It makes it feel 5 hours long because you draw out those scenes.
Yeah. It's talking about hub worlds. It's the hub plot where everything kind of jumps off from, except for Rey. Rey's kind of get back to there.
Yeah.
Sort of, kind of, because the next thing, because,
the Rey stuff and the Kylo Ren stuff is by its nature more interesting than the Leia stuff, which is not to say that Leia has no cool things. We get a lot of people didn't like it. I guess I'll hear Ryan's in a second. We get the part where Kylo Ren is sent on a little mission to take out their shields and their fighters, so they can't fight back. Essentially, like that's how Poe's ship gets destroyed.
Well, yeah, because they also, this is also a pretty interesting sequence, because he heads out there and all the people we saw, like his co-pilots and everything, they all get annihilated, like from these TIE bombers, like, and so they're even more like depressing realities hitting, and
then we see Leia feel Ben outside of the ship, and he feels his hands on the trigger, and then she feels him not do it.
Now, this is the first subversion of expectations, but I also think it's not Rian Johnson's fault, because at this time, Carrie Fisher's dead in real life.
Yeah, passed away.
And so we don't know how this character is going to unfold. So I feel like it's not his fault, but it's very weird to see her survive that, because it's like, oh, that's the perfect out for it.
He introduces, like all Star Wars movies, a new force power.
Yeah.
Which is not really a power. You can.
She survives in the vacuum of space.
Neil
and flies
deGrasse
back.
Tyson would say you could do this. Like, you would die from lack of space. You could take your helmet off. It's just really cold.
Yeah,
you would suffocate to death before you froze to death.
Right. It wouldn't be like Arnold in that episode of The Magic School Bus that traumatized everybody.
I thought about it too.
When he takes his helmet off, it turns into an ice cube, and everyone's like, "Oh fuck!"
Yeah,
Arnold's dead.
Yeah, he is dead. But she manages to hold on, and she pulls herself to the ship with the Force, which is not something you see usually. Usually, the Force can pull something to you, or you can push something away, but you can't pull yourself towards something.
And the scene of that obviously had a lot
Mary
of
Poppins.
Yeah, and and also poor. I didn't. As a Star Wars nerd, I was like,
Admiral Akbar.
You just killed Admiral Akbar, and it's just like he
there
gets
was no hit the trap.
I'm gonna die. That's like one of the great rebel leaders just got blasted out of a ship, and no one talked about it. He ain't got no force powers.
There's also an instance where he's not in. I think the actor who played him died.
Yeah.
Because that's why he's not in Rogue One, and you get this as Admiral Radis of whatever.
And that's when you get the Radis, the ship that it is. It's based on him.
So all the fans being like, "Holo should have just been Admiral Akbar."
No, what?
He's dead. Like I've
He
heard
should
that.
have been Admiral Akbar.
I've heard that. Like,
Really?
Admiral Akbar
I've heard
should
that
have
before.
become
Admiral Akbar shows up. He's like, "No, I'm a hard ass."
No, like he should have been the person to take
To
over
sacrifice
when Leia's,
himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you meant like
to do
takes
that,
the whole
but
character.
and I've heard people say he should be the Holdo character.
Wow. Well, this will get to a Holdo argument I'm going to have later.
Yeah.
But no, I don't. I always forget. Kylo Ren's not the one that fires those rockets.
No, he doesn't. And
No,
then
it's the other
They
guys.
come past his ship.
His
Does he
wingmen.
not shoot them down afterwards? I
doesn't.
thought I remembered like. I think it was something I wanted him to happen is he shoots those guys down.
Yeah, he does it because the reason he goes and does that is because Snoke, right after they get away, we get big old head Snoke being like, General Hux!
Oh, General!
My disappointment in your performance cannot be overstated. And so, you know, he drags Hux across the ground. Hux tells him, actually, I put a tracking thing on them or whatever somehow. Do they ever explain that? We have them tied on the end of a string.
Mm-hmm. And then
is
the
it?
following scene is Kylo Ren walking in, and then
Past
they're
him.
finishing up Hux is finishing up his meeting with
he's
him. He's like,
smugly-
tied on the end of a string, indeed. Good job.
They don't explain it.
They pat him on the head. He walks back with a shit-eating grin on his face,
Yeah.
And then he says,
I got one from the headmaster.
yeah, and then because like all fascists, he admires anyone higher in authority.
Yep.
But he tells him that
he's a little proud boy.
and then he asks him, you wonder why I keep such a like disingenuous cur around or whatever. And then we get the scene that I think is really good, which is it is both a answering of criticism and a subversion. Whereas Snoke tells him, and he goes, when I first saw you, I saw something that every master wishes to see: raw, untapped power and potential.
Oh, from the trailer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he tells him the blood of Skywalker, and he goes, and now I fear you're not the one I thought you were. And then he goes like, and then he's wearing a mask.
Yeah.
But Kylo Ren's face says it all, which is like, I've given everything I have to you.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm doing my best.
Yeah.
Like,
And then
I
then right when
I
he said,
killed Han Solo. And
right
he's
when
like,
he
who
sa-
gives a shit?
And right when he says that, it's take that ridiculous thing off. And then he tells him, and he goes, I killed my father for you. It's like, yes, and the deed split you in two. You were unbalanced, beaten by a girl who's never held a lightsaber.
Yeah.
You failed. And he shocks him with his lightning
Love
or
it.
whatever. It's good stuff.
And
it answers the criticism of how would he lose by someone who's ever
it's like the
People still ask
movie
that
is
same
aware that it's like the great Kylo
Why does
Ren.
Batman kill people? It's the most boring argument. Anyway.
Well, it is answering. The movie is saying, oh, we're aware how rough this seems because Kylo Ren is essentially a former Jedi Padawan who got Sith training and is a scary badass.
Yeah.
He's scary that he's unhinged, but he's a scary badass. And even his master is like, you beefed it. Like this girl from nowhere who's secretly my associate granddaughter.
Yeah.
By
proxy.
Because
I am not me.
I'm not me. I'm a clone man.
Yeah.
And it's just like you really failed this. Like wow.
And if you're
way to go.
and if you're Snoke, you're not wrong. It did split him in two. He's deeply conflicted this whole movie. That's why in the next scene he doesn't do it because he can't do it.
He can't kill his mom.
Yeah.
Also,
and that's why in the next movie it's one of the few pieces I like. I like that the thing that snaps him out of it is his mom's gone.
Yeah.
Now. Everything that tied him to his old past is gone. And you would think that's a liberating thing that leaves him open to the dark side. It actually is the opposite.
That's why I
fills
wish
him with tragedy.
it throws his own arc of let old things die as he realizes he doesn't want to let old things go because he hasn't come to terms with those old things. And that is, I actually just realized how smart that is just this very second in this chair. And I was like, I just wish it could have been discussed better.
Yeah, when he says "let the old ways die," he means all of it.
Yeah,
is the thing.
He's like, yeah, we'll get to it, but
So that's
you were saying something,
those scenes kind of go together. Was all I was saying.
Oh no, it was just a small thing. I was like, that's why I wish that at the very end of Rise of Skywalker that he got Leia's lightsaber and not Luke's. And it's just a little small nitpick. And I was like, oh, his connection to his mom is what saved him.
lightsaber?
Doesn't Rey have it at the end?
Rey has it.
She buries
that's
it.
right. But she never uses it.
Yes, she
No.
does.
Well, she uses
she
it.
does.
I have two lightsabers.
Yeah, and then
thing.
she gives one of them to Kylo Ren through their little Force touch thing.
When he fights the Knights of Ren.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You mean the Knights of Ren, or you mean like? Don't get me started.
The action figures. Yeah.
I just thought it was so funny that the Knights of Ren have been talked up for 2 movies, and Abrams they do 3 things: they handcuff Chewie off screen,
and then put him on a different ship off screen,
and then they beat up Kylo Ren for a bit until he gets a weapon and kills all
of them. Just
they're worthless.
Yeah,
anyway.
they're putty people.
But
man.
anyway,
and they're
in the
not
grand
in this
tradition
movie.
of making characters that look cool but are garbage, Star Wars never fails to disappoint.
Well, there's like one like throwaway line in like The Last Jedi where like Luke's talking about how Kylo Ren abandoned the place, and he's like, he took a couple of my students with me. So maybe are those like the Knights of Ren?
Surely,
Yes,
yeah,
yeah.
they are. Yeah,
But none of them have force powers or lightsabers.
guess not.
It's strange.
Maybe they never completed the training.
Yeah.
Too old. Too
They
old to
didn't
begin the
complete
training.
Like, why not have other Jedi training?
Well, maybe it's
there's no
like-
rules that says like there can only be 2. Like I know in the Sith there can only be 2, but like
Or a dyad.
there's no rule that says like if we're going with the old ways die. There's no rule that says you can't have more people use the Force and stuff.
Well, maybe it's like they were not like
Far enough along.
or force sensitive. Like you know, Ben's a Skywalker blood. Like of course he's going to be like filled with midichlorians if we're still going with that.
Yeah.
And maybe these guys are just like yeah, we're just recruits. And we never really got to the point where we're in tune with the Force, but now we're like radicalized by the dark side, and so we're just kind of we want the cool masks.
Yeah. Anyway, so let's.
So speaking of Luke, that's pretty much where we're going next.
Yeah.
Right? Is on the what's the planet?
I can't remember.
I can't remember. It's Ireland, Space Ireland.
In the grand tradition of Star Wars, you have water planet, green planet, ice planet, fire planet,
Salt planet later.
and maybe a salt planet. That's another cool thing. I'm glad we just got a
Only
new
the Avatar
environment.
planet.
Yeah, like I'm ready to see new worlds that look cool.
Alien worlds that
say
look
what-
alien.
Yeah, say what you will about like Revenge of the Sith has some cool alien looking worlds.
Yep.
And that's what I like. Like I wish we
Though I
had a
do
s-
love General Grievous talking about Mustafar's like it's a volcanic planet.
Yeah.
What did you expect?
Yeah. I liked the fact that like, you know, say what you will about Lucas's flaws, but like he always pushed the envelope on new places we could go, new characters that we could see, and like he always expanded the world, sometimes in ways that we didn't want, like midichlorians, but also sometimes you got like a Camino, which looks
I
alien.
love Camino.
Yeah, I
That's
love
such
Camino.
a great set.
Yeah, or like, you know,
when we actually get to
Geonosis, which even is like that's still like it's desert planet, but like populated by aliens that have
bugs.
Yeah,
and a bug like workers union.
Yeah.
like, with like a foreman.
yeah, and then there or like
I actually like the Confederation's like union of aliens, and they're all like the Techno Union and all these other guys are all parts of different like
yeah, the Techno Union make the super battle droid.
Yeah.
which is
The,
why
the
they-
guy with like the knob that
knob.
he does
Yeah.
to change his voice.
I love it.
Why didn't he like he kept like when he got to English, the Techno Union, blah, 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 is that you're already on English.
Harder, better.
Like, but anyway, but like that's a good example of like I wish there was a spoonful of George Lucas in all these movies because I feel like we would have gotten stuff. That's
And I
a
think
little,
that's kind of what Johnson's trying to do in this. Is he's trying to because this is the
We get to
movie-
go to Las Vegas, guys.
yeah.
We're going to Vegas.
So we meet Luke on
We're
Space
continuing
Island.
the last part.
Yeah,
with the
and
extension.
he throws his lightsaber, which immediately the neckbeards. Like, I
Yeah.
can already see them.
Uh,
Conniption.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he throws the lightsaber over himself and he just walks away. And I love Rey's reaction. He's like, Master Skywalker, come back here.
She's reacting exactly. He's like, I know this is how they're going to react.
Yeah.
But to me, after I've spent time with this movie, I'm like, this is the logical place for this character.
It is.
Yes.
It
Anyone who wanted him to pick it up and be like, let's go.
Yeah.
No. Your movie is over now.
yeah. And also,
If we're hunting him down in the previous movie, there has to be a good reason he stayed lost.
Yeah.
Either he's in a coma,
right.
which would have been like the Death of Superman vibes, or he's in self-imposed exile for a reason.
Or much like all of these Jedi Masters, the trauma of their existence has led them to become
Hermits.
To become hermits. When you meet old Ben, he's old Ben, not the legendary
Yeah, that
Obi-Wan
is interesting.
Kenobi.
Yeah, it's weird that the Jedi always end up there. I mean, I
Yeah.
guess back in the old days there was a huge
I both agree and disagree. Like I agree it's the logical way that Luke's character needs to go, but I also feel like the defense for why people are so upset by it is how purposefully unapologetic it's written. So as opposed to just like Luke just saying, "I don't want to do this anymore." He throws it over his shoulder.
But he doesn't say that. He says that I came to this island to die.
Yeah, well, he says that much later. But I'm just saying that as opposed to just introducing Luke and his new philosophy, and they just start it by well, whatever. I don't want this lightsaber thing, go away. And it, as when you juxtapose that with how it ends and this just kind of Rey holding it out. That's I cried at this moment when I watched it. You hear the Skywalker music and then that's where it leaves you. This is your first chance back at it, and then it's just that feeling. I mean, it's provocative, but I also feel.
What would you, if you're writing the fan script, what would you have him do? Maybe just drop it.
Thanks, but no thanks.
No,
or just be why are you here?
Start with the "Who are you?" type of thing, and then once he realizes why she's here, that's when you get into this. I don't do that anymore. I came here to die. The Jedi need to end, and I mean, I get it. It gets the audience feeling a certain kind of way, and I guess that's what the purpose of it is. But I feel that's kind of also the defense of it.
I have criticisms of it too. Yeah, which we'll get to.
It just feels it takes you out of the moment. It's jarring that he's just he just lugs it over his.
Like every great subversive.
Yeah,
he doesn't do subtlety, Johnson.
Yeah,
and he throws it into the garbage.
Yeah,
Zack Snyder doesn't almost break Zod's neck. He breaks. His
I
neck.
just feel there's better ways of going about the same message. Yeah.
I see what you mean.
There's inconsistencies too, which I think I'll point out in a second. But
I see what you mean. I think to defend the whole thing is jarring is a good word for it, because it essentially it starts your new interaction with Luke with a mystery. He is this antisocial. He is this just give me a break. That you're just what happened to you? Yeah. You're Luke Skywalker. We watched your growth, and now you're this misanthrope.
Yeah, and I would argue,
and also I would say having it this way gives Mark Hamill as an actor so much more to do.
I agree.
There's a potential that if he's more reconciling, he becomes a little more dull. And by making him so this character, you make him more interesting and complicated, and you give the actor more to do from that message, and so you get to see him do such wild stuff, taking that big old swig of space goat milk and Animal Crossing his way through everything on there, and you get to see the extent of the man he has
people
become.
hate that too. People hate the milk and the fish thing. I was it's whatever. It doesn't matter.
I think it's so
it's
colorful.
irrelevant. It's interesting, but it's also irrelevant. It's
if it were or weren't there, it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
To me, all it does is color the character more. Again,
this is what he's been doing, everybody.
He doesn't have to explain anything. He's now a kooky hermit, and he's living the kooky hermit life.
And I would argue the reason of when you say what happened to you, what did happen to him has problems, as to making sense.
Well, it's because we don't see the whole story of the fall of his.
Do we want to get to that now?
We might as well, since we're here and we're.
I'll throw all my negatives at Luke all at once.
Okay.
Because I do have positives too.
Yeah.
Because it's a weird mishmash. You can't talk about a negative thing without talking about. But I know why they did this thing.
I'll say something really quick before we start on my end. Yeah, I think Mark Hamill's performance is one of the best things about this movie.
Absolutely.
And I think
he shows up and he's great. He looks great.
And I think this Luke is one of the best things about this movie. But let's continue. I'll try to see if I can cut any negatives.
Yeah. Well, I have a negative in the sense is so Rey comes to him. They have a great little scene where I just like I say, acting is people standing in front of cameras pretending to be other people that they're not or whatever.
Or in this situation, coming back to somebody you were that has now fundamentally changed.
A good part of acting is just good writing and great delivery. There's a great part when he first meets Rey and he finds her in his study or the book where the books are. The Jedi texts or whatever.
Sacred texts.
And he finds her in there and he goes, and there's some cool sound effects. And as he breaks her zen, the sound drops out and he goes, "Who are you?"
Yeah.
And she goes, "I told you." I was I'm Rey or whatever. It's "Who are you?" Why are you here? And then he goes, I'm from the First Order. I was yes, the First Order. Why did they send you here? And he goes, "Where are you from?" She goes, "I'm from nowhere." And he goes, that's a great delivery too. No one's from nowhere. Jakku.
All right, that is.
But even like but I love how like almost genteel it is. Like, oh, no, sweetie, no one's from nowhere. No one's nobody. Wink, wink, audience.
But he's also speaking from his experience. Like,
yes,
I came from nowhere.
Exactly.
I came from nothing, and then he's like, "Shit, that's more nothing than Tatooine."
So she said, "There's always been something inside me. I've been afraid of it, and I need someone to show me through this." And he goes, "You need a teacher." And he goes, "I can't." He says something like, "I can't do that for you," or whatever. Yeah. He leaves and says, tomorrow I'll give you a lesson about what the Jedi are, 3 lessons, and why they should end or whatever." So
I will give you my thesis.
Yeah, and but his reasoning never. If you follow his reasoning logically, it never leads you to the Jedi should end. If you look at the Jedi as a religion with a creed of some sort, he says, "What is the Force?" And she goes, "Oh, it's a balance of life and death and birth and rebirth. And between it all is this force that binds it together." And he goes, "To say that if the light dies, the Force dies is vanity. The Jedi do not own that." I don't think a Jedi would say they own it either.
So I think the philosophy that he's speaking to, which I actually found probably the most interesting part of the film, is kind of like expanding upon like the fan like gray Jedi aspect, or is like the prequel Jedi mindset is that you purge yourself completely of darkness, and that you are just the light side of the Force, and that
desire.
That's what's fundamentally flawed about being a Jedi, is that you are going against the will of the Force by taking away that balance.
Exactly.
And I feel like as point 1, that's incredibly interesting, and I wish they went into that more.
Because what he's talking about is the Buddhist idea of you detach. Yeah. You are not attached to anything, which is why
you're part of the cycle, which does not make you any more important part of the cycle.
Samsara or whatever. And he says, when Yoda says to like Anakin, he's like I sense great fear in you or whatever, and he's like, you miss your mother. He's like, what does that have to do with anything? He says, everything, because what you desire means you're going to fear to lose that desire, and when you lose it, you'll suffer, and the suffering will lead you to become something that you hate, which is just Buddhist philosophy. It's why you detach from things, because if the goal is to minimize suffering, and the only way to minimize suffering is to minimize what you attach to.
Pure altruism in yourself.
The Jedi, and this is the contradiction that even Master Yoda can't see through, is that to be a Jedi is to serve mankind. You can't detach from something that
there's suffering inherent in that.
You're sworn to protect it.
Yeah.
So it's an inherent contradiction.
As a warrior, you also have to fight, and fighting means that you might die. And if you die, but you also should know, nothing. And nobody's ever really gone. Suffering is temporary.
Which is what Yoda says. Like, they're not gone. They're in the Force. They're a part of you now. And you could look at it like the Jedi fighting in wars and leading armies in the Clone Wars is in a way both a betrayal of the idea. Like maybe Yoda would say, like, if we detached from all this, maybe we wouldn't be suffering so bad, because we wouldn't be leading armies. But then the universe might suffer and lose. So like the struggle is part of the philosophy in a way, which is why when Yoda says like it's the duty of all teachers is to fail.
Yeah,
which I like. It goes meta even into the prequel trilogy.
Well, that's what I love about this movie. It's the first one to directly relate back to the prequels. Like I feel like the Force Awakens and JJ and everybody, like, we have to course correct away from Lucas's prequels in any way possible. And Ryan's like, no, there's some really interesting ideas here, and I want to bring them up.
It's interesting that you say that. Interesting ideas here that we need to keep. That's where I would go to Luke, and I'd be like, instead of saying the Jedi should end, why don't you just do like what the Catholic Church did with the Bible, and like you have a council, and you're like, we're getting rid of this and this and this, we're keeping this and this. Like
the Council of Nicaea on the sacred text.
And I would say that like that is the logical place you would find yourself. And he goes, you look at like the Jedi's, when you strip away their legend, the Jedi's legacy is failure. Like, well, it's defeat. I mean, what is failure? And again, like him as a teacher, he's terrified of failure, which is another part of why he's there.
He's tampered by his own self-defeat, so he sees it as failure. Yes. Because he's beaten himself up with failure for this last time to have any kind of outward recognition. He's deep in self-hate because not only did he fail his students, he failed his nephew,
And
he failed his
sister.
friends and his sister, and therefore he almost feels that he has failed what Obi-Wan gave him. He failed his own legend.
And maybe I think he equates that with the Jedi is what caused me to fail.
Yes.
Because this philosophy is flawed.
because he brings up
That was his second point. He said that like I became like this legend, and so I was so confident in myself to be able to do this, and then I wasn't able to live up to that, and that kind of hubris breeds Darth Vader and Kylo Ren. And sometimes when you take those risks, you bring about these Nazi people that want to kill everything, and maybe teaching isn't worth
It's
that
my
risk.
greatest critique of Star Wars is like, what is the light side? What is the dark side? Because as far as we know, it's like, oh, if you fight with anger, you're a Sith.
And-
It's
and-
basically just don't have a shitty attitude.
and it's like
Obi-Wan looked kind of mad when he fought Darth Maul.
yeah.
Exactly.
and it's like, are all Sith inherently just mustache twirling evil? Because I think going back to the gray concept is like
They just do what they want.
You look at the it's this kind
Good
of
is a point of view, Anakin.
it's like this kind
That's
of
a good line. Shut up.
like it
I
almost
didn't say it was a bad line.
Okay, I'm just making sure.
like it almost reminds me of like
The best part of that movie.
like it almost kind of reminds me of the facets of what would be Satanism, which is like on the outside aesthetically Satanism is like black robes and evil culty, but
They're just
if you read the
atheists.
nerdy texts of Anton LaVey, which I've recently done because we've had it at work, and I've been like, what was Anton LaVey reading a satanic Bible? It's just kind of this dorky text about just like
Atheism
do
and
as thou
freedom.
wilt.
Yeah.
Yeah, do as thou wilt. Like passion. Passion seems to be like the motive of Sith.
That's why I said a great spin-off would be like a Sith Chronicle, like
Yeah.
a Sith series of a Sith master and a Sith apprentice.
That would be,
And
yeah,
but
'cause-
without them trying to like conquer the universe. Maybe
Right.
they're out for hidden Sith knowledge or whatever, and they're running from Jedi on their tails. That would be great because you could explore all these philosophies that we're talking about.
And,
right
and
now.
also be like an outside critique of like what's wrong with fundamentally with like Jedi.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where did the Jedi get it wrong? And I think like the Jedi got it wrong by, you could say, by being a monolithic religion.
Yeah.
That has a tower of people in it.
Yeah.
But like
They were so broadsided, and I think that's a part of what I love about this movie.
the
is
Jedi are like, they're like Sikhs in a way. Because like Sikhs, a part of Sikhs religion is you're allowed to defend your religion from those who would harm it or something like that. And that's why like Sikhs, like there's like all of those old images of Sikhs, and they have like a saber.
yeah,
on it
and you
stuff.
still get a saber and things like
Yeah.
that. Like it's just kind
And
of.
I would say
ceremonial.
like if the Jedi is supposed to be about defending knowledge and truth, then like you can't detach, and your idea of like detaching from suffering is flawed. But that also doesn't mean you get rid of the Jedi. Like Luke should, instead of letting the Jedi in, he should just have been like, we should reform the Jedi. This is the inconsistency I'm getting to. It's all psychological. It's not an inconsistency, but to the neckbeard who's reading it, he'll be like, no, the Jedi are still all right about those things. He just points out that they failed because Darth Sidious was able to wipe them out. Well, that's not necessarily the Jedi's fault.
No, and I think the fact that Luke brings it up when they're in the cave, and that's when he finally gets a chance to say like Sidious, and we bring up directly the prequels, and he's like, what caused this monolithic thing is like the Jedi Order became the Jedi Order. They stopped being about their connection to the Force and started becoming unattached. And they became material, and they became governmental, and they became like space cops.
Yeah.
And
But you can't detach
allowed
either.
right.
There's
But
another part.
they allow that foolhardiness and eventually that apathy.
If they were so powerful, why were the Sith able to return?
Yes.
Because they didn't see it coming, because they became this giant thing.
Right.
And they weren't able to focus their energies on where it should
And
be.
if the Force is much like the yin and yang, the two must always be in
Balance with each
balance. Then it only makes sense, I guess, from a spiritual aspect, that the Sith would come and the Empire be built, because it had been such a disbalance of the light for so many years and so many centuries and generations that it's like, well, balance always comes back.
Yeah.
That's the story of this, is like, we win, we lose, but the balance is always that. And that's why later on, when Kylo Ren talks about killing the old ways, he's like, this ain't working. The Sith don't work. The Jedi Order don't work. These philosophies keep each other from balance.
Yeah, and you could look at the inverse. It's like, what about the Sith? If the Jedi's way is to make them blind to dangers around them, what about the Sith leaves them so open to radicalization? That could be another inch. Like, again, there's a series to be made here, Disney. Do it.
Why is it that if you are a Sith Lord,
you must
you
be
are evil?
You must be an evil killer and a fanatic. And like I'd like to explore those ideas. Maybe there's a weird predisposition where if you are a Sith, you have this mindset that is sort of predisposed to authoritarian tendencies.
Well, you kind of got a little bit like with someone like Count Dooku, Darth Tyrannus, is that he was somebody that wasn't as radical. But he was a political idealist.
Not to measure.
But he was somebody who had essentially just ended up being just a puppet, and
it's weird that Palpatine chose such an old apprentice.
Yeah,
I mean, he's not an apprentice anymore, but like
he was a person of influence.
Yeah, because he had been
that's all he was. He was a stepping
family
stone
for a long time, and it's kind of like if somebody who had been like a rich, like aristocratic prince of a family all of a sudden joined a cult.
But it's weird. But it's weird if he's so powerful, he's not able to see that the Emperor is just going to be like, and get rid of him, kill him, do it.
He looks up like, what?
His Darth Vader cookie wasn't done in the oven yet.
But then we get to like another so those are actually like mixed / positives I have. I think the philosophy isn't explained as well as Ryan could to have averted criticism. But then we get to the point of a real negative, which is the reason Luke really left was because he lit his lightsaber in front of Kylo Ren, and it kind of doesn't hold up for me.
So I also don't think it holds up. I feel like it's very sloppily written to have Luke go to that place. I feel like you can still have the same outcome of
the same moment, but you have to
of Luke Skywalker like feeling like he failed Kylo Ren and Kylo Ren being incredibly resentful of it. I feel like you can get to that place without being as silly as him getting out his lightsaber and no. And then, I feel like my own headcanon of it would be like, you
show scenes of him in training exhibiting this power.
Well,
Ben Solo finds the Daily Wire Prager University of Snoke, and he starts
watching Snoke on YouTube.
He starts spouting all these
universal healthcare sounds good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Do you know it's actually slavery?
Ben Snokepiro.
He starts spouting these ideas to all of the other students, and Luke is like terrified of this. He's like, no, like you can't be doing this, and he keeps doing it. And I
thought we were the new way. Why can't we read all the knowledge?
So he ends up expelling him, trying to protect his other students, and then it has the opposite effect where it makes Kylo Ren mad, and he comes back and he slaughters everyone, and he takes the people that actually sympathized with him, making Luke someone who gave up on his student, makes him feel like a failure, and he just kind of he's like, man, I gave up on this guy when I could have just.
And maybe they have like a fight at the end.
Yeah, that's what
Luke could have killed him, but he doesn't.
And you don't need necessarily even need to see all of this. You just kind of just need like.
Because you also get that.
No, but the neckbeards want a lightsaber fight between the two.
Well, and also like I think that idea is really interesting and is part of what I think Rian Johnson gets about this new Star Wars is it is very, a lot of people argue it. This is very political, and it's very much about
this
now.
one is.
Yeah.
Force Awakens is not.
Well, it's political in that it's about.
There's a lady.
Well, and it's about like essentially Nazis coming back, idealizing like the former empire, and now they're a much more cruel and violent form of it, and it's younger. But yeah, I love that idea. But if Rian Johnson actually did it, so many people would be so angry.
Oh yeah,
are you talking about me?
Yes.
Black people's brains are smaller.
Trandoshans.
Their IQ tests are lower. It's in the data. I listened to a Sam Harris podcast about that, and I wanted to vomit afterwards.
Oh, God.
Anyway.
Oh man!
Remember back in the day when that guy just used to be like an atheist?
An atheist,
and now he's
used
interviewing
to be with
Charles Murray,
with Daniel Dennett and
Richard Dawkins
and Christopher Hitchens, and
they all had a round table.
I bet Chris Hitchens would just be spinning in his grave.
Christopher Hitchens was like a neocon though near the end.
He
when it came to the Bush administration,
he did get tortured that one time and was just like,
for 15
that
seconds.
sucks.
Yeah.
Let's not do that.
Yeah.
And he was just kind of a contrarian philosopher dude.
But he would have.
I loved all the speeches.
He would. I did too. I read. There's one where he
It's all right, everybody. We have Jordan Peterson now. It's gonna be okay.
But Christopher Hitchens would have like shit himself to hear some of the dumb shit coming out of Sam Harris's mouth.
Yeah.
You know, so
Those are the kind of people that would have gotten mad.
What a wonderfully charming person.
Oh, because he never raises his voice and he talks like this. You can't get mad at anything he says.
He makes jokes too.
But that would be great. That would all be a much more smoother way of showing the power inside Kylo Ren.
They just took the lazy way, it's just like
We have
it's very
20 minutes
easy.
on Canto Bight, but we can't explore what it's like to
Exactly.
train
That's
under
my
Luke
point.
Skywalker.
Like if you gave the Rey Luke segment 15 more minutes and you cut out one of those B stories, it would be vastly more interesting and it would rank way higher for me in the grand scheme of things.
Sorry, I was just trying to get in. So I'm in agreement, but I'm caught between going back to what I said before about flashbacks.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is a movie that needs these flashbacks, but because it's a Rashomon effect. Everybody has a different opinion about what happened in the story.
Yeah, but none of the other Star Wars movies are ever about what happened.
No, they're
like
not.
we never have like.
But now that this is a sequel series about things that happened, there has to be
exactly,
about
that's my
things that
point.
happened.
So, but in between Empire and Return of the Jedi, we know what happened.
Yeah.
Han got captured. Luke's been training. We're gonna get him back. We don't need to see anything.
Right.
There's a deleted scene where he builds his lightsaber. If you want to see that, but like Luke trained a new generation of Jedi. Like you should show us some of that.
I wouldn't.
And more than just like a little like a view of a burning temple and he puts his hand on R2 or something.
Isn't there a scene where like his hand busts out of some like
rocks
rubble and things?
Yes.
Now, what happened there? That was cut.
That
was a
Kylo Ren
trailer.
brought down the hut, and then he assumed that Luke was dead. Or something.
Okay, and then and then he just
so
popped his hand out.
And
Luke
he
was
sees
completely
the burnt
unconscious
temple
throughout the temple. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't remember if that scene was actually.
And also, it's a
included in
great
the film.
opportunity to like show him training these people, so you can see the fear build in him instead of just us hearing about it. Because here's the thing: when you leave it up to imagination, some people don't have great imaginations, and they're just gonna think like. This is all that happened as he walked into Kylo Ren's hut and he felt the darkness in him and he lit his lightsaber up and then Kylo Ren got scared.
I don't think it's a devil's advocate to say that if that's what they're going for, then you just need to be more imaginative.
Yeah,
because
well, I mean,
this movie does give you enough to know what's going on. The problem I have is like when you draw in the creation of the First Order through this and Snoke's involvement, because they got that comic series now about young
Does it
Ben
count?
being. I know, but that's a problem then, and that is a problem with this movie. Is it's like I want to know the moment because Leia mentions it, Han mentions it, like Snoke's the one that did it.
Yeah.
He needs to
We don't
be
know-
involved in
Yeah.
this plot of
Exactly.
the radicalization
Maybe
that leads
Snoke
to
is
him.
the man that gives him this literature, like, oh, the Jedi won't teach you about
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
real
exactly.
shit.
That's he's like,
this friendly old guy that befriends him, and he's just like, look at this YouTube channel.
yeah.
Yeah.
He needs to.
He's
yeah,
like you said, he's
It's
like,
absolutely ridiculous. You just gotta say things really fast, and it's really interesting.
yeah,
the Prager
he's a.
what you're saying is if you believe in universal health care, you believe in slavery. My wife, who is a doctor, should be killed if she has to is forced to treat someone who has cancer. Don't doctors take Hippocratic oath, Ben Shapiro? Shut up, you stupid neckbeard.
Are you wearing a golden robe? I love this this arc of Snoke's own podcast he has. He's showing up on Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan's getting shit about it later.
You could make like dark side powers where he disguises himself.
Yeah.
as something else.
He
Like,
technically is already.
Yeah, it's like biblical stuff. Like Satan
Satan
disguises
does.
himself as a snake or something.
Yeah. Have a tempting force.
It's the Snow White witch where she comes with the apples.
Yeah, and just be like this is just knowledge of the Force. Why would the Jedi be against such knowledge? And he'd be like, oh.
Well, that
I guess I'll read
recalls
it then.
that recalls Palpatine's grooming of Anakin as
Exactly.
well, because he shows as genteel.
It's what's called a parallel.
Yeah, and so I will agree that it's like we don't
It's like poetry,
really
like rhymes.
we only get through performance. Again, I'm like the more you don't see gives more for the actors to show, and I'm big on that actor theory stuff, and I think it's successful because of Hamill and Driver's performances. That they show us.
They show us the animosity, but I think that
I think they show us their own individual like struggles
No,
and
that's-
relating
of
back
course.
to that apex moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am in agreement. Like I for one thing, I'm like, if you're gonna do these these little Rashomon flashbacks where everyone's thinking back to this moment, and you see Mark Hamill with like dark beady eyes. It's like, ah, and I'm like,
yeah, because they already do the flashback.
Yeah.
We see it 3 times, 3 different ways.
And that's what's I know what Johnson's getting at is like, from a certain point of view, everybody's experience is different. Everybody sees something different at the same moment a thing happens.
Yeah.
And it could change everybody's life.
But instead of like Benicio del Toro stuttering and like being like, oh, you sell stuff to the good guys and the bad guys.
Porky Pig, the
I get it,
Star Wars
man.
character.
Yeah. I get that. Like
we'll
you don't
get to DJ.
Yeah. Easily the worst part of this movie.
Yeah, especially since they doesn't come back.
Yeah. And I think that I would rather just had Ryan's fan script right there, that little scene. It's good, man.
Yeah,
Hire me, Disney.
We have good ideas on this podcast.
Yeah, this is our resume. So
unless you're Ben Shapiro listening, that's not how I sound.
yeah, they're gonna come kill us.
Are you telling me that if the sea levels just rose 10 feet, people just wouldn't sell their homes
And move.
Sell their homes to who, Ben? Anyway,
Ben, I've read your book.
Which one? The one about anti-pornography? Or
No,
Or his fantasy novel?
Yeah, his fantasy novel about like
True Allegiance?
Dick American,
God.
Dick American Hardgrave going to.
How could you read that, dog?
I didn't read it. I've been listening to a podcast that's been reading it.
Chapo Trap House?
No, it's Behind the Bastards. I've talked about it a few times.
Yeah.
They've been reading
so
it.
bad.
They're getting to the point where they can't read it anymore because it's just so racist.
Yeah, there's a part where a cop accidentally kills a little black kid in it. We get the black kid, and Ben Shapiro makes a point to write this in the book. Sorry if you're listening to this political stuff. We'll get over it in a second. Ben Shapiro makes a point to write in the story the black kid had a toy gun, orange tip removed, justifying the murder. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway.
His lightsaber had an inactive kyber crystal, so it could have activated. That's why I struck him down.
So I think we've kind of mined a little bit of stuff. Let's get to like maybe Kylo Ren and Rey and the Canto Bite stuff.
Why don't we
really
do Canto Bite first? Because I feel like we could just get through that real quick. Because the Rey and Kylo thing is kind of the overarching thing with the story.
I have another fan canon for Canto Bite. Wouldn't it have been amazing if instead of Finn and Rose going on an adventure to Canto Bite, it was Poe and Leia? Poe learning about the cost of war would have been a lot more interesting than someone who already agreed with that lesson.
But then we have nothing to do with Finn.
Who cares?
I know you're
I
not
do.
wrong, but like
I like Finn and
I like Finn, but he has nothing. There's nowhere for his character to go.
He does. Oh, I would say the Canto Bite sequence gives him a chance to grow because he starts the movie off not
in the
sure if
same
he
way
even
he
needs
started
to
the
be
first
there.
one.
Yeah, he kind of puts him in the same stakes again because it's like they almost killed him, and
Which is why at the end of Rise of Skywalker, the fact he should have gotten together with Rey because at least it gives him a character arc
he should have gotten Force powers.
or something.
He should have been a Jedi. Like, come on now.
But yeah.
But I think that this, again, it's a little sloppy in terms of the character development, but I think having this adventure from when he's beginning, like, this is all too much for me to handle, I'm getting out of here. And then he runs into Rose, who is a diehard, who's like, wow, you're great. Now he's like, I have to live up to this expectation. This person, I don't want to do this. And him discovering what the war is, him discovering all this, him discovering getting betrayed. And by the end, when he finally meets Phasma again, the
One
character,
day later.
the character that groomed him into a stormtrooper, made him into nothing. He finally defeats her, and it finally has a moment like, yes,
I would
am
argue
confident.
that
That's
Finn,
good. I
but
still
Finn
just found
already
his arc
knows
is-
the cost of war because that's why he left in the first place.
Right,
And I
yeah.
feel like that lesson isn't nearly as impactful as like if Poe were to learn it, where he's just like, the resistance can do no wrong, baby.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're just like, well, look, they're selling weapons to you,
That guy
and
makes
they're
an
doing all this.
X-Wing. That guy makes a TIE fighter. It's the
Forcing
same guy.
Poe to come to grips with the grays of the war would be way more interesting, I feel like. And then Leia using it as like her grooming, teaching moment with him. I just feel like it's
War is ugly, and you have to play ugly
getting to
win.
spend more time with Carrie Fisher in general. That's what I don't want her unconscious on a ship for half the movie. That's what I
That's a
want.
very good point.
That's her last movie.
Yeah.
And I
They
get what
didn't
they
know
were
that.
doing
They
because
didn't
they
know
were
that.
they tried
I
to
thought there was going to be the third movie, which is all
yes,
gonna be her
they
movie.
segmented it on purpose. They made Force Awakens Han Solo's movie. They made the second movie Luke's
And they were
movie,
gonna
and
make
then
next
they were
one
going to make
Leia's.
Leia the last movie.
And then she died tragically. And it's like, well, we got nothing.
I also just feel like finding this code thing is something that needs to stop in Star Wars.
Find the thing to stop the thing.
that lets you do it like in Rise of Skywalker.
I will agree. That's not a good plot device. Like, you gotta find the code breaker.
It's literally called a Sith Wayfinder in Rise of Skywalker, and then we have the magic coin that lets you just go anywhere. Yeah. Even if your ship looks like a rebel dusty ship coming into the Star Destroyer.
The knife that's in the shape of the haunted. It's
Rian Johnson is a smart enough writer to not make us go to Canto Bight, which makes me. And look, we should also.
Or if we're going to Canto Bight, there's got to be something better than we got to find a code breaker.
Yeah,
we got to find a code breaker.
And it's also worth to say that Rose Tico is an actress who did her job. Don't send her stuff on Twitter.
Yeah.
And the big payoff of that whole arc.
The script,
and the big payoff of that whole arc is releasing a horse and saying, now it's worth it. And you're just like, oh, that's what I spent the last 20 minutes building up to. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. I mean,
hey, I love a good scene.
I get the message. I think the message is nice.
And now she's not a slave or whatever. Yeah.
And I like the situation. And I love it when you get to see the stuffy rich, take it on the chin a little bit, and their little hedonistic gambling parlor gets trampled of dog doo-doo and everything.
I just think there's a more streamlined and smarter way to go about it.
It's a little too childish, I think.
Yeah. That part feels very episodic.
You know what would have been
if it was an episode of like a TV show, it would just
like
been
a Mandalorian or something.
Yeah.
You know what would have been even smarter? Just make all of them go there. Leia, Finn, Poe.
Yeah.
Rose.
Yeah, like instead
they're
of
all going on this mission.
Yeah, they have
leave
to crash,
some people, leave Laura Dern behind, and
but then we leave Holdo, and we have to get to Holdo because I have some nice things I want to say about her.
Mm-hmm.
Are we going to go to Holdo now, or are we going to talk Finn and Rey?
If we have more to say on
so
Canto
I guess with the character of Rose, real quick.
Canto Bight, I think my problem is it's just fine. It just feels like filler.
It is kind of fillery. It's a filler episode. I mean, but we also learned some interesting things that we in an interesting way. Because you could obviously have like you said, Poe being like, but Leia, we are the heroes here, and she pulls up the thing like, you see that X-wing right there, and you see that TIE fighter made by the same guy. That's how war is funded, kid. Yeah. And it exposition.
Do you want to know what we had to do to get the money to pay him?
Yeah.
No, you don't.
You don't want to know.
So just shut up and do what I tell you.
But instead, they do that in a interesting environment because at least it's visually compelling and interesting. You got all cool monsters and everything. It's very Star Warsy, and it's a location we haven't seen before.
Yeah,
and it's also a part of the story that we haven't seen before.
I like that Star Wars can either be a posh yacht party or also like a pre-technology civilization like the Wookiees or like Tatooine and the pod race. I like that you get all sorts and all comers in it.
It's a large universe with lots of different economic
which is why some of these movies just feel disappointing when we don't get anything interesting to look at.
And that's a problem with when you create a universe is like you gotta tell one story in the universe.
Yeah,
because we've seen stories where it's like if you get too universal, the movie sucks.
Yeah,
you think about something like Jupiter Ascending or something like that.
Yeah. You get Star Destroyers that blow up whole systems or whatever.
Yeah.
Each Star Destroyer is a Death Star.
or as Poe just says, like, of course they do. It's just like, damn it.
So let's talk about Laura Dern and Laura Dern. Lena Dunham. Laura Dern. God damn it! You address
Miss Laura Dern in this house.
I thought you said. For some reason I thought it was Lena Dunham for some reason.
It's Lena Headey.
Lena.
She would have been great.
Yeah, she would have been great.
Oh hell yeah!
Yeah,
Cersei.
Yeah, but
having that.
Who is Lena Dunham? Why did I think of that?
She's the creator of Girls.
I don't know what that is.
She's a comedic actress, problematic individual, not my favorite human.
Why? What? Why?
Who cares?
Doesn't matter.
It's too much to go into.
I know all the
because of Girls, we have Adam Driver. That's the important part.
Okay, I know that a lot of the anti-feminists hate Lena Dunham. That's all I know.
And a lot of feminists hate Lena Dunham too. She's just kind of mean and
but
weird.
Laura Dern gets a lot of shit in this, and I think she's quite good.
She gets a lot of shit, and I think she couldn't. They can fucking kiss her heels. Like she's like, I rule and I'm awesome. And
I also
I'm
like the
Academy
fact
Award
that
winner,
when we're introduced to we've all voted Vice Admiral Holdo should be the blah 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 blah, and then she goes, "That's Holdo from the blankety blank maneuver." Yeah. Holdo, I like the fact that she is like a soldier who has a backstory.
It's kind of like the Lor Santeca thing, where it's like he was involved with something in those median times, or it's very possible Holdo was. 30 years ago was just another like X-wing pilot. You have any thoughts on it, Ron?
On what?
On the character of General Holdo.
I used to not like her so much because the plot makes you root for Poe. But then, like, upon like you thinking about it, I like her a lot more. I get what the message kind of is. It's just like it's definitely like a feminist like commentary on like, you know, she's like the person in charge. You have to listen to her. Like she's like, and
I have to listen to
like,
a woman.
and it makes you question like, why are you going against like why are you
getting
asking
so mad about it?
Why are you asking these questions of Laura Dern when you know, like, if Admiral Akbar told you the same thing, like you would just trust his judgment and that you would just kind of stand at your post.
Yes.
But
Admiral Akbar
there's
would
also
tell me the plan. Well, she can't tell you the plan because she thinks you might try to do something stupid like he does.
And she's a superior officer.
I feel like at a certain threshold point she should have done. So like when Poe goes to the bridge and he sees her like packing up basically there's like you're abandoning ship. I agree that she should get him off of the bridge and like, okay, you're being insubordinate and you need to go. But then she needs to turn to the rest of the crew and like, not even on screen maybe, but like, hey guys, we're doing this. So because he's like sowing discord at this point. He's making the crew uneasy.
For all the people that say she's a bad commander, if this was the military, he would be thrown into
he would be hung.
Yeah.
Like
if again,
there is no reality where like there's a standing military where Poe makes it out of this because
when he pulls a gun, that's
treason.
firing squad.
like Poe, if this was like the modern military, he'd be like Bo Bergdahl. Like everyone would just be like, he should be tried for war crimes. Like he's not patriotic.
Yeah.
All they do is stun him, and then it's like, I like him. Like no, why?
He's got spunk.
Because she knows that it's stressful and it's a scary time, and they're the last of the rebellion, and he has the goodness in him to be a great commander.
Yes,
which they completely undercut in the next movie.
But yes, that's the most tragic thing is like all his.
He doesn't learn anything. He's hyper light speeding.
So I like how the character makes you critically think about like it questions like your own perspective on things, I guess.
See, I didn't even.
But I don't think it's perfectly done because, like, at the same time, she's also the head of the Resistance, which is basically like a bucking of authority. Like, well, it's like it's the seeds of the rebellion which bucked the authority of the Empire. So it kind of by nature you want to buck authority like Poe is doing. So you want to question, what are we doing? What's the plan?
Subversion is you do kind of if you're watching the movie, you do agree with Poe because the way they frame it is like Poe's like, she's not telling us what she's doing. She has no plan. We gotta like.
And also she performs in some moments, and Johnson frames it as that she's sinister. Like it's not just she's hiding; she's sinister.
In some way.
And so we're getting a slanted view for a thematic point of view that you're siding with Poe until they reveal what's really.
You
going
have
on.
to root for Poe because that's
how the movie's framed.
Because otherwise everyone dies.
Yeah. And again, I've been holding on to this argument for a while, going back to the Admiral Akbar thing. Aesthetically, for it being Laura Dern with purple hair, I always bring up the argument. If it had been Bryan Cranston in a green uniform saying the exact same lines, you would have no problem with it.
That's true. I agree.
I think if it looked like a strong armed military man who just said literally no lines different. Every line is the same.
You still wouldn't like him because you're not. The movie makes that clear.
But people's upset towards them wouldn't be framed around a
once you get the payoff, you wouldn't be mad.
Patriarchal.
And I don't think that it is a political narrative. I don't think Rian Johnson put her in there to be like, I'm going to show all these neckbeards how to take orders from a woman. Like I didn't even think about it. Like this is how much I didn't even give a shit. It's like when I just saw her, I was like, yeah. It's
I think
Laura
that's
Dern.
my problem is I watch things and I'm like, I know those people aren't gonna like this.
Yeah, now I do, but like I said, my cynicism to fandom has been opened up. But yeah, I didn't even think about it. I was just like, she's just the next person.
Yep. Yeah, I do agree. Like if like Bryan Cranston ran his ship into the Star Destroyer, once that payoff happened, they wouldn't have ran to the internet and complained about him. They were like, yeah, he was just a character that we didn't like, and then we realized he had a plan all along. It was great.
Yeah.
What do y'all think about the Holdo maneuver sequence? That's something that's never been done in Star Wars before.
I think it's fine. People who say like, well, now you can win every battle like that. No, because you're assuming that one, like
you have infinite resources.
Yes, and like we don't know how much fuel that takes. Two, you're assuming your enemies will sit there and let you do it.
Yeah.
Because they don't know that at first. They just like, oh, she's turning around. They think she's gonna attack, and then Hux like freaks out and goes, "Oh, fire the ship!" Like,
Well, Han Solo proved in the last movie that you can react with light speed reflexes, because the only way they could get onto Starkiller Base was to get in at light speed, and so they fly at the planet at light speed, and then so once they're in, he reacts at light speed to pull up so they don't crash into the planet and die.
you're talking Force Awakens or whatever
Yes.
when he's going through the trees.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone
like,
should just
and
turn
al-
into jelly at that
and
point.
also like that. I think the idea is that like that's a one in a maybe not a million, but that's like a one in every 200,000
Yeah,
chance
all
that
the-
goes exactly the way you
all the
want it.
pieces have to be together to make that work, because they were not expecting a suicide run.
Yeah.
And they were not expecting
Also,
all
like
that to happen.
the smart thing to do would be like, all right, he's gonna hit one of our ships. Everyone else needs to move away.
Mm-hmm.
But all you've done is blow up your ships in a battle that doesn't work because it destroys everything around it.
Yeah.
Including the friendly ships that might be there.
Right.
You have to have it in that exact scenario, and battles are very rarely like that. So
Make
it's a
your,
dumb criticism.
and also
fit your
it-
missiles with little hyperdrives, just like make
Yeah.
them all go
and
at
it
light
also
speed.
played on their confidence, because they're like, we literally got them down to the last man. Like, we just got to blow the ship up.
yeah,
and it's over.
they're George Foreman with Muhammad Ali. He's
Yeah.
gone 13 rounds and Ali hasn't thrown a punch, and then
Yeah.
boom, 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 and it's over.
And it's over.
Yeah, so.
Good comparison there. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's exactly what it is. They're overconfident. Ali won that fight when he was like, I think he was like almost 20 years older than Foreman. No one thought it was possible. Anyway, but
What'd y'all think about the Snoke thing at the end?
yeah, we'll get to.
Well,
start
let's
talking
do
about
the
that.
let's go to the end then. Like, is there anything in between? We talked.
Well, Rey and Kylo Ren.
Oh
Right.
yeah,
They have their connection.
Yeah.
and this
I
is-
liked it. I thought it
loved
was the
this.
most
I like it.
interesting.
I hate it in retrospect to the movie that follows it because it's
Yeah.
like I've made the connection. I'd rather just the idea they're just
Showing the Force in new ways is
connection.
always
Yeah.
interesting.
yes,
And it
I'd rather
also
just
it
was
also
that.
encourages the theme here of like the Force is not the Jedi and the Sith. The Force is connecting us all.
The Force is not moving rocks and controlling people's minds, like
Right.
Luke says.
Yeah. Yeah, those training sequences are really great and,
Yeah.
and really nice.
I wish we got like more. This is my always been my criticism for any Star Wars movie is like I wish we just got more of what does it mean to train to be a Jedi. What are the
Instead of
what are the exercises?
doing a lot of jumping through trees.
Yeah, like
It's
I
not a
want-
Rocky montage.
Yeah, I'd like to see actual training, and that's something they do in like the Clone Wars when Count Dooku trains Darth Maul's brother. Savage Oppress. It's
Yeah.
a great name.
neat name.
Savage Oppress. Anyway, but he makes him like the Sith way is like he's making him lift these rocks, and then if he's not doing well enough, he shocks him to like to make his rage bubble up and stuff. I'd like to see like what does real training look like in this movie. I like the
Well, you do
philosophical training, the speech of what it is.
I
That's
like
good.
the idea of
I also like the
Force
joke
training in general being conceptual as opposed to like it's
But if it's just
here. It's not
concept-
this crude matter.
Yeah.
You know?
But if
It's-
it's
You get
just-
one of the best speeches in film history
Yeah.
of that little puppet saying the most moving thing you're ever going to hear.
or do not. There is no try. I think if it's all
Luminous beings are we?
if it's all conceptual, then Jedi would just be like the guys from the Green Lantern Corps. the
you
big
trust
head
your feelings.
guys or
Yeah, you
whatever.
like the people
there
in
has
Ohio.
to be like training. Also, like lightsaber
Physi-
combat is part of it
Well,
too.
it's instinct. It's trusting your feelings. It's knowing that the lightsaber is going to be there to protect you from the little droid ball that's going to shoot you.
Because it's
I
not.
need
It's
more,
not.
Ryan. I need
It's not your
more.
eyes that see.
Yeah.
You are part of everything.
So
You are the
you're-
eye.
it's-
I guess what I'm
you
saying
don't
is I'm
need-
tired of little snippets of training
But
where
that's
like
all it is.
like Luke blocks the droid thing.
Yeah.
Or like you know like you or you
But
see
that's the whole point of it, though. It's not that
you can't become a master Jedi by little
Obi-Wan
things.
didn't
There has to be,
teach
like,
him to do
legit-
that. He just said to reach out with the Force and let the Force
But if
show
it's
you
a power,
what to do.
that means there's a discipline.
That's what the
to
power
attain it.
is. It's
No,
how-
there
Well,
has
Ryan,
to be
at that
dis-
point, you're going to see
if-
all kinds of Cheeto-handed neckbeards
if
be
there's-
Jedi masters.
If the power exactly, and if the power is if it's just the power, then there,
Kit Fisto
there would
had
be
to
no
work
purpose
hard
in
to become a
training.
Jedi.
If there's just the power,
the
once you
training
understand,
is to grapple with those concepts, knowing how the Force works,
No,
and
then you would have to read like then all you would do is read the books, and be like I get it, and
the
then like
training.
it's done.
The training
there
is,
has to be a discipline.
what you have to do in religion.
So like Yeah, that's what the Jedi principles
There
are.
wouldn't be stages and going from Padawan to apprentice to there has to be a discipline and like a series of like when you're learning guitar, you don't just learn like, oh, I know what the notes are. We have to play the exercises you do. I guess what I'm saying is I just want to see like a more detailed idea of what training is. I'm not saying I need it all explained because it's a magical space power that doesn't need to make sense.
Well, it seems like you
But I
do
wanna
get it
see-
encompassing.
I just choose not to believe that they didn't like the
Super-
Padawans didn't get to master by destroying a threshold of battle droids.
Superheroes movies do this very well, like learning your power and stuff. Like there's even like a good idea of like, like when a person in Kill Bill, when Uma Thurman is like move your big toe.
Yeah.
Doing something small, then doing something like middling, and then doing something big. Because we see Luke lift a rock.
Yeah.
Like, or the idea could be like, I'm gonna throw all these things at you.
But I also
Only one of these rocks is red.
I feel
Stop
like
the red rock from hitting you.
I feel like if you treat
just a thing that makes it like it's a disciplined thing. It's not like a feeling. It's a particular task.
I think
that I'd like.
I
feel
think
like
a good medium ground in this would be like you get the physical training, but like you said, it's something specific.
Yes.
It's not just running around. It's not just swinging a
You're not doing
lightsaber.
flips over a swamp.
That's too
or whatever.
vague. It's too vague. It's too general. I agree with you on that.
I also
why
feel like
is he
if you
making him
treat
do that, if physical fitness is not required, because obviously it is.
I feel like
which
if
is
you
why he makes him
treat
do it.
the Force as like a toy box of superpowers, which the point of The Last Jedi is to refute that. It's not really what it is. I feel like it kind of constrains and cheapens what the Force is.
I kind of see what you're getting at.
And
there, 'cause it's
like if
even Luke
if,
would be
if,
like,
if the,
Then why
if the
would
whole
anyone
point
have
of the
to learn
Jedi
it?
is to teach you, okay, now this is how you make things lift, and this is how you see into the future, and this is how you shoot lightning out of your hands. That's all there is to the Force.
I'm not saying to explain those things.
he succeeded level 3 lightning ability.
You don't need to explain it video game style where you've earned a new ability. You need
feel
to
like-
explain it like more methodically. I
feel like the way I'm going about it is I'm going about well, the way that I'm hearing it come from is that you want to teach like how school would teach like math. 2 + 2 is 4 or whatever.
No, not
and
necessarily.
I'm trying to teach it as like you learn the concepts of it, why addition works, and like why the concepts work, and then that's how the Force works. It's not x plus y equals z.
Then everyone would be able to be a Master Yoda then.
But not everyone would. Everyone has the potential to be a Master Yoda.
Everyone should
yes,
have the ability to
but
be a
it's
Master
what
Yoda.
you do with the lessons that you've been taught is what brings out your true potential.
That's not
In the
explained in any movie. I take umbrage, sir. No,
Well, here's what we'll do.
But
Each of
Yoda
y'all-
was only so good because of how long he's been at it. Yeah,
That's true. He's been around for a long time,
Yeah.
but we don't know how long other aliens live for. Does Ki-Adi-Mundi 400 years old? He could be really old.
He'd be 3 years old.
How old is Plo Koon? We don't know. Kid Fisto. How old are these people?
Well, we're never gonna ask them because Anakin
dead.
killed them all.
But my point is like
Maybe y'all should start different Jedi camps this summer.
Yeah.
Well, I
and,
think
like,
that-
we'll see who comes out in the
here's
end.
the thing. Here's the olive branch. I'll accept that I don't need to know how Rey can magically lift all those rocks at the end. I don't need that explained. I just want better ideas of what training is.
I
'Cause
just
it
don't
can't
wanna-
just be
I just don't
read
want
a
there-
book, understand the philosophy, and then you got it.
I just don't want to be
Otherwise,
like
it
a.
wouldn't be like everyone would be able to do it.
Right.
Or everyone
it
who was
wouldn't
force
feel
sensitive.
being a Jedi warrior would not feel as heroic as it is.
I just don't want to define.
You don't have to-
I just don't want a rock solid definition of what the Force is,
Well, you don't
because
have to
that's
define
what's great about it.
You don't have to define it.
it
though.
can
It's
be
like, It's like I
anything.
said, just give them an exercise. This is an exercise to teach you like finesse with it or whatever.
But I feel like that inherently
of it.
makes
Yeah.
it a defined thing that.
Well, then there's no point to having the train. We're going way too long on this. My point is like I would like to just see like a slightly more specific idea of like because they're training kids to block the light
Which I think is stupid.
to trust.
Which
their-
I think is stupid.
Then you by definition you have to agree that like there has to be some
The
sort of
training
working up.
regimented thing I thought was stupid because I thought that was like an improvised thing that Obi-Wan did.
Yeah, he
Well,
found
he does it
time.
he does it because in
But
the
he did it
prequels
to
he
teach
saw
them-
Yoda do it.
He did it to teach him the larger lesson of letting the Force guide you to do this. He like Obi-Wan and Yoda didn't have like a combat practice with him.
I'm not
he
saying
he taught Luke to use the reach out with the Force and let the Force give him the training.
And the
that
Force
he's
guides
needing.
the lightsaber in a way.
Yeah.
I get that. That makes perfect sense because that's you're closing your eyes and you're letting the magical power do it for you. But that also doesn't control things about things that are very specific, which is move that to there. Like that's not a believe in yourself. Like Darth Maul goes and like points it at the thing and opens the gate up or whatever. I just want to see like more specific.
Tense your muscle here at the forearm.
I don't need it to be like that explained. But my point is like there've been movies that deal with like a great example of this. I loathe to bring it up. Chronicle. Have you seen Chronicle before?
No.
It's the found footage movie.
It's like a superhero found footage movie.
By the odious Max Landis.
Yeah, it kind of turns into Akira by the end. And it's
Yeah.
also by
Josh Trank.
Josh Trank.
Yeah, it's quite a good movie.
It's a good movie.
Yeah. They get these magical sort of vaguely telekinetic powers, essentially. And Dane DeHaan's in it, and he plays a kid who gets abused. And by the end of it, his powers are way better than everyone else's. Partially because he thinks he's like an apex predator. Is the theme of it? Is his powers get scary good? There's a part where he yanks a guy's teeth out of his mouth. Ooh. And he goes, you have to like use it like a whip. And he goes like you kind of lasso around the tooth and you yank them out of the dude's mouth or whatever. There's like the way their powers get better sort of the more they use them. But there's sort of like a way of you watching it grow over a movie as opposed to and now she can do all of it. Like I want to feel like because we never see training. We see Luke has started training. You know, and then Empire, he's really not any further along. He can kind of move. Well, he can grab the lightsaber.
They even tell him like you haven't completed the training and it's dangerous to go fight Luke. Fight Vader.
And then by Jedi, he's done.
He's a master.
What? There's something in between. You know there is between Empire and Return of the Jedi. Where he does
it's only
something.
been a year.
Yeah.
It's only been a year, so that's not like
I feel like it's him grappling with the concepts of what the Force is and coming to terms with it.
Why can't we have both of those good things, Ryan? Why can't we have both?
I think there is there's a difference between the philosophical nature of this thing, which I agree with. It is this spirit that fills everything, but then you also have the problem of it's a movie and you got to have physical manifestations of that. Why do they
use lightsaber fighting then?
Because they're flawed. They don't.
Why does any Jedi use a lightsaber if Yoda knows it so perfectly?
I don't 100% agree with all of their methods.
I get my point.
This would be a great single.
We'll move on. Let's move on.
Great stuff, guys.
Ray and Kylo.
So we're reaching the end of the movie. There's really not much else to get to except the supremacy is the Kylo Ray essentially turns herself in after her training and everything.
Very Return of the Jedi vibes.
Yeah, very Return of the Jedi. Somehow this is a plot hole for me, and I didn't think about it until recently. No, she doesn't. She doesn't. Does she?
She gives himself over because she
takes his X-wing, right?
No, she flies the Falcon and she uses an escape pod to get to the thing.
That's right. I wasn't sure when the X-wing comes up next movie.
Did you guys like their? I liked their conversations. How they go from like
adversarial to chummy, kind of.
Not necessarily chummy,
understanding,
but just more understanding. I think is the right word because like at first she's like treacherous snake or whatever, and then like next and like I think Kylo Ren deep down just wants someone to like
connect with
somebody love
maybe, but like I think he just wants somebody to like look at his hurt and acknowledge it. And be like, I tried to do all these things, and like he tried to kill me, and like he like. I like. There's a great film essay I read where like all the greatest villains. It was an opinion piece or whatever. Like the best movie villains should be able to be beaten by just like a hug of someone telling them they're all right. There's a great Superman story where Brainiac is a tortured alien who a higher race found him, and they brought him back to life and. They're a very logical race, so they started like cutting off his arms and enhancing his body and torturing him and doing all these things and like testing. His race had natural like telekinetic powers and stuff. And eventually, like every caged animal, he snaps and like Fan Force Stick, he starts exploding heads. And they upgraded his body so much that like he almost kills a planet essentially. But he does it like one neck at a time.
Yeah.
And you see just like piles of body, and eventually they evacuate the planet and just leave him there. And it's the ultimate story of what you should do when you make a baby.
Nature
is
versus nurture.
You hug it and you kiss it and you tell it matters, and no one ever did that. And for hundreds or thousands of years, he was tortured and prodded until he became this perfect machine. And Superman just kind of beats him by saying, I'm so sorry that happened to you, and not everyone is going to be like that to you, I promise. And he just gives
That's
up.
actually kind of moving
It's,
me a little.
It is. It's
like-
the sweet,
I'm like, oh my
because I
gosh.
was always like, I wanted a story where, I'd love a story where instead of violence winning the day, you win it by, I'm so sorry.
Well, if you love that, Matt, you would really love Naruto.
There's a couple of pieces like that in Naruto. Yeah. But I loved the idea that he beats him by just understanding his trauma, because he's going to like destroy the world, and the Justice League's like they've come up with all these contingencies and these plans, and Superman just tries he doesn't quite like hug him, but he says like,
He empathizes with him.
well, it's not even empathizes, because like there's a part where
sympathizes rather.
the way we learn about that, this is way off topic, but the way we learn about that is Brainiac shows him his memories, and he makes Superman feel the pain of what it was like, and like when he learned that he had powers, he just kept it to himself for like 100 years or something. Do you take this? Go ahead.
Hello. I'm good, man. What's up? Can I call you back? How long are you? You're gonna be there till 6? Okay. Yeah, I'm busy at the moment, but I can call back before close. Yeah. Okay, for sure. All right. Thank you. Well, I gotta take that call at some point. Manager needs to speak to me at work.
Ooh.
We'll cut that out.
So at the end, he shows him all of his pain, and he shows you the moment he learned that his race, when they reach maturity, which they live for thousands of years, they get their powers kick in as like they reach adolescence, and he just sits on his powers forever, and then he just breaks out. And it's violent and kind of gruesome, and he basically sees Brainiac not as a world-conquering collector of knowledge, because the reason he loves knowledge is because he learned that from the aliens that tortured him, because they were so logical, and they valued knowledge, and knowledge is precious when it's rare. And
Knowledge.
yeah, and and all Superman does is be like, no one should have done that to you, and it turned you into something bad. And he kind of gives him the ultimatum of like, if worst case scenario is you're wrong and you can just break out again, but best case scenario is you can be kind of what it's the Iron Giant. You can be whatever you want to be, and you don't have to be this. And I was like, it's very touching, and I like the idea that as these conversations with Kylo Ren go on, I think it's the middle one.
It's one when they're in the hut together, right?
No, it's before that, where she said, maybe it is, but Ray says, I'd really rather not do this right now.
Oh, when he has his shirt off.
Yeah,
I think
when
so.
he's swallow.
Yeah. Is it maybe that? I don't know.
When he's been
That's
swallow.
the second one.
Ben Swallow. And then he says, I've had a bad day too. They start connecting.
They start connecting.
And then by the end of it, she kind of says, like, you don't have to be Kylo Ren. You can be whatever you want.
Yeah, it's not too late.
And
it's kind of like he wants to have all the conversations of a normal person, but can't confront the most important thing.
This is the splintering.
He has nobody to confide in except a burned helmet of a Darth Vader.
Right.
And Snoke, who hates him.
Who hates him and is abusive and also made him lose everything, but he has no other. He's like, I'm right though. I have to be right.
Yeah.
Because if I'm not right, then all of this was for nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
And this is when you start getting going to Jedi is when Luke finally realizes, I don't have to defeat my father. I have to bring my father back.
Yeah.
And it works. He succeeds in that. And that's why you see Vader, even though they fight at one point, it's a very different situation.
Yeah.
And it's because they finally were able to be like, you're my dad, you're my son. What are we going to do about this?
Yeah, it's good stuff. And I liked by the end of the last conversation, when they have the moment where their fingers touch or whatever, and then Obi-Wan Kenobi comes in, or not Obi-Wan, Luke Skywalker, it might as well be. Luke Skywalker comes in and the hut explodes.
Yeah.
And then she is faced to confront like maybe Luke Skywalker isn't all good either.
Yeah.
And that like this is where the movie does its best stuff.
Yeah.
Is like these little either emotional or philosophical moments that like they're so much more interesting than watching that ship run out of gas or watching another transport get blown up.
Because now we're getting into what this movie is so good at, and why we're having these conversations is it has successfully, while still being in story and in character to Star Wars, question and make us think about Star Wars on a deeper level.
And that part, it's at its best.
Yeah. And so then we get to the thesis of let's talk about Kylo Ren's thing, and then we can, I guess, start wrapping it up.
Again, this is the tragedy of Rise of Skywalker. One of the tragedies of Rise of Skywalker.
Let the old ways die.
Is so they finally are at the supremacy. You get Snoke. You get who's so.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry, kids. Everybody needs to talk.
It's my turn next.
Yeah, I just got to talk to you. Dun, 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 dun. Nice.
Don't worry, we have a professional.
Let the old ways die.
Let the old ways die. So so we end up with you get
the confrontation in the throne room.
yes, with which is so visually stunning. The
Big red
the
backdrop.
black and red
Yeah.
is awesome. These Praetorian guards rule. They should have been the Knights of
Yeah.
Ren because
Yes.
they all have these cool little. You get a great. And I'm blanking on names today. Who's playing?
Andy Serkis?
Andy Serkis.
Yeah.
Does wonderful
Yeah.
as he's so delightfully evil as Snoke.
Yeah, he's so much. I feel like he's just so much more interesting a turn than like another emperor who was like, this is just as I have always planned it or whatever.
Yeah.
I feel like it's much more interesting.
He is much more interesting.
He looks like he enjoys being a bad guy.
Yeah,
you know,
and
and
that's
like
that's kind of why his character has to be that the story is not about Snoke.
No.
Unlike how the others were about Palpatine.
Yeah.
Snoke is just a cog of functionality. And that's what Kylo Ren realizes, and that's why Kylo Ren kills him.
Yeah.
It's part of just like, for one, it's just like, you can read his assassination of him in many ways. One is just like
Rian Johnson throwing this character in the
right,
garbage.
be like, this character's stupid and kind of has no point. Let me just get rid of him. But it's also Kylo Ren being like, I have no reason for you anymore.
Yeah.
My theories about things have evolved past your rudimentary ideas of things. I am not Darth Vader.
Yeah.
I've come to realize that, but you ain't Palpatine. You're just another flesh man with power, and I can kill you. And he's like, that's when him killing him is the murder he commits that does bring him over, not to the Sith, but to his new platform of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, his own.
I don't have a problem
that
with him
only
killing-
exists in The Last Jedi because Rise of Skywalker completely throws all that out of the window.
Yeah.
But in
that vacuum.
Yes, in the vacuum of of The Last Jedi, that's when he makes his point.
Right. I have no problem with them killing Snoke. I care about it less and less each time I watch it. I think the thing
I actually
is,
love it.
I think that the thing that would have made it better is, again, in the next movie, you figure out
You have
he
a plan.
literally was nothing.
You
And
have a
now I'm
plan.
like- yeah, and I'm like, I would have, like, I know you don't like flashbacks, but like, there's some questions that should have been answered about Snoke at some point in this trilogy that just are not.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of leaves you with a bitter taste.
The best thing JJ could have done is just Snoke's done. Now we're facing a new threat, or what's left of the First Order has become a new creature.
Yeah.
And like Snoke is an example of the idea of the all-fearing, visitor.
Pull an ultimate like JJ and just be like, he's back, baby. Like,
Yeah.
just bring him back
Well,
from
he
the
essentially
dead.
is back because he was Palpatine all along.
Because we don't
Why
know
not?
how he existed in the first place, so you can kind of go anywhere with it.
That'd have been an interesting concept, like where you think you killed him, and then like the Force works in a completely different way, where like, no, he's actually back, even though you just slashed through him.
Yeah.
Through
We need-
a lightsaber.
Well, my original theory,
they just picked the wrong character to do that to.
Yeah. My original fan theory about what was going to happen was like Palpatine yes, was Snoke, but Palpatine is a spirit of the corrupting force of why the Sith are evil that has existed for millennia, and he just takes on new forms. Because like I was like, oh, so Richard E. Grant's going to be playing General Pride. I was like, this guy's going to be like the new avatar for Palpatine. That's how Palpatine's going to come back.
The best theory that I heard about Snoke is he is all the hate that it was inside of Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader.
Yeah, and he became a manifestation of that. I don't like that. It's kind of cool, but I like that.
Given all the meta things in this movie, like
I like that
I would
he's
be fine
just
with.
He's that Snoke all along was just an advantageous, like, dark force user cult leader who took advantage of a splintered empire and got shit tons of funding and reestablished the First Order.
I think all you
to be a tin pot dictator, and then Kylo Ren is like, wait a minute, you're just a tin pot dictator, dead. I'm in charge now, because that's my rightful place.
I think all that would have had to happen for Snoke for the neckbeards to chill would have just been like explain how he got Kylo Ren. Yeah, how he led them over.
Which now they're retconning in these comics to be like, oh, he had trained him from the beginning as like a secret, as a secret weird guy.
What? That's so dumb.
Yeah, that's what's happening right now in the comics. Is you get to see him like with a weird hat, and he's like walking around in the woods with young young Ben, just like, let me tell you about some things, kiddo. And then he comes back, and it's essentially like what you're talking about. He's radicalized by an outside force that makes him question Luke's concept, and that's what leads him. So that happens.
We just don't get to see it.
In a book, who cares?
These are things that should happen.
Should have happened in the movie.
Then we get let's nerd out about something that's not metaphysical or thematic.
It's a dope
lightsaber fight.
Where do y'all rank
good.
this one in like your top 5 or so?
There's some good ones in this whole.
That's really hard.
I mean, we don't have. I mean, we'll talk about lightsaber stuff another day, but I just wanted to see where the Praetorian
I like
fight.
it better than the Revenge of the Sith stuff.
Yeah, there's really not a lot. I mean, I like the Anakin Obi-Wan fight. There's some over choreographedness in there where they just sit there and spin their sabers for like a good second, and then they just do that. But like, there's some good stuff in there.
There's grit in that fight. I like it.
Huh?
There's grit in the Last Jedi fight.
Yeah,
It's
and it's pretty violent too.
And they do like things with like a lightsaber, like they turn it off and like
Turn it off,
they hand off to each other, and they.
Yeah.
I think that's interesting.
And all the Praetorian Guard's weapons are interesting, and they affect the fight differently. Like the guy with the laser whip, and all that. And
there's
they're
one
formidable.
with like 2 little commas.
Yeah,
that
they like
uses.
splits them apart, and it's kind of a ninja.
Yeah, it's clever.
Yeah.
And
The
like,
only time 2 lightsabers hit each other is in a flashback.
Yep.
Yeah, in this movie. Yeah. And whereas in the next movie, we get like 9 lightsaber fights or whatever. And they're all fine.
They're all fine.
Yeah.
But eventually they set the place on fire and all that. And that's when, it's like Kylo's so like, it's over. It's over. Like, we're in on this. And she's like, that's not the way. Like, and he's like, what are you talking about? You made it this far. Like, don't back down now. You need to come to my side.
You would think the best thing for her to do would be like, okay, but you have to let Leia and all them live or something, and then just betray him and leave. You would imagine that would be the smarter thing to do.
Well, that's where you get, after this movie's over, the debate of whether it was going to be like his redemption arc and her turn to the darkness. And instead, they just don't do any of it, but they kind of do, but who cares? This is the moment where I got a little frustrated because I'm like, this could be the beginning of his real arc, but because she cuts him down, he incels out, and it is just like, fine, I'm the supreme leader then. I'm going to destroy all of you.
Yeah.
You just did the exact same thing you were criticizing Snoke for doing.
Yeah, basically.
It's a little
I'll
unaware.
have a new world order.
Yeah,
Like,
it's a little not self-aware enough considering where we just were.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, no, Ryan, Mr. Johnson, this theory you have about kill the old ways is very interesting and really interesting in Star Wars.
Just don't follow through.
And then you don't follow through with it, and he becomes an angry person where now, because he's emotional and he's angry, becomes a tyrant. It devalues that principle. And that principle is agreeable for a thesis of this movie.
Yeah, and part of that is the next movie doesn't follow up on it enough. Do we want to talk about Luke and the astral projection?
Yes. Let's go ahead and get to the end of that. And so everybody's on
Crate,
where the Crate Dragons are from, I guess.
The salt planet.
Which is also visually stunning and interesting.
Yeah.
What makes it red? Like when they go through?
The soil is just like red.
Yeah, it's 'cause
whatever, and
like
there's a big layer of sand and salt over it.
Yeah, so it turns it into like clay.
Yeah.
And then there are these awesome like frost
Skippers.
wolves.
Oh yeah, the ice foxes.
The ice foxes are really great.
Okay, before we get to Luke, what was Poe and everyone's plan when they all flew out there towards the laser cannon? Because once they get up to it and they don't have any weapons to disable it, were they just going to get out and try and like?
They have. I think there's some weapons on there, aren't there? There's like lasers on their little thing.
Then why does what's her face crash into Finn?
Because he's not. He was gonna.
He was going to do a suicide run. She didn't want him to die.
So they had like little lasers that they were going to shoot the cannon with.
If they didn't,
Then why didn't they use it on the TIE fighters?
Too low.
Okay.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
those chips don't look like they can.
The
fly.
TIE fighters could just take. It's kind of like the little.
I
skiff,
just didn't
it's like the skiff
understand,
bikes
like-
on Indoor. Like,
It's like I feel
their
like once
ground
they got to the
combat.
end of that run, somebody was going to have to ram into it.
Yeah. Maybe it could have been.
Finn, you're a main character. You can't do it.
yeah, it's not my favorite thing in the world, but I mean, yeah.
And in a world of Star Wars battles, it feels quick and quaint.
I do love me some AT-ATs because it's they're like mechs,
Yeah, we have new AT-ATs. They're cooler
or
and
even more
sleeker.
sinister. And
I love Ray having fun in a little TIE fight with the little Millennium Falcon gunner.
Yeah, they
scene.
redo that music.
I like
from-
this.
They redo the music from A New Hope.
Dun 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 dun
And-
dun 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 dun.
And they're
Dun, dun, dun,
that's
dun,
good
dun.
stuff.
Yeah.
that you get when Luke shows up, and it's so wonderful. And he first goes to Carrie, and you get that moment, and he's like, I love this. This is immediately you're just kind of like, what
going
are
on
you
here?
doing here?
His beard is shaved.
He's-
What's
he's
going
looking
on?
Really trim. He's got a nice cloak on. But how did you get
A
here?
lightsaber barber.
Yeah, and he's self-trained. One of those nuns did it. One of those space nuns did it.
Swapped
But we
out
didn't
my
even talk
kyber
about
crystal
them
really
or the
fast.
porgs. We didn't talk about any of those.
Hey, porgs are a lot of fun. That's it. That's it. They're cute.
I would
They're there
rather
to
we
sell
just
toys.
wrote them out of the movie.
It's
and
nice that they
give
get
Ryan
sad
his
over their
10
brethren as Chewbacca eats them.
One of them. There's that cut scene where one of them jumps on top of the lightsaber and just burrows the lightsaber through the other's face.
Oh, I don't like that.
Rian Johnson does kill these things pretty quickly. It's cut scenes.
So yeah, Luke shows up. And he
Fire
goes-
on that man!
Yeah.
More!
Yeah, I thought it was really funny.
Yeah.
General Huck's like, I think he's dead now, or something like that.
You think you got him?
Now here's it. Oh, I'm sorry. I have to bring this up again. When poor Hux finds the body,
Snoke,
Snoke's body, and he's just kind of like, oh no. Do you think he like had any kind of like emotional connection to Snoke? Or
I
was it
don't.
all
I
just, like-
think he knew that was like Snoke was the reason he had the power that he did.
Right.
And so without him being there, it's Kylo Ren. And
Which is
so
why he reaches for the gun.
Yeah, he's like,
and then Kylo gets up and he's like, what's going on over there? Like, what is that?
Yeah, I think that's the moment when he's like, oh no, now no one's gonna get in between me and this other guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he's like, oh, the girl did it. And he's like, I don't care who did it. Like, you're here now. And then he quickly owns him.
The Supreme Leader is dead. Like, long live the Supreme Leader. What was your how did you feel about like the Luke Kylo standoff?
I liked it.
So good.
Yeah. A lot of people don't.
I think it was
Yeah.
very Jedi-ish.
Yeah, that kind of gets more into like you're talking about it earlier,
Like
where
Return
it's
of the Jedi, or
No, just Jedi.
like as a Jedi.
That's what a
like,
Jedi would truly do. Like that, he doesn't use a lightsaber.
Then why have the lightsaber?
Well, yeah. Then Kylo Ren is just like, God, why won't you die? And apparently, the scene of them fighting mirrors when Obi-Wan and Vader fought in.
Well, you
The
see
New
his
Hope.
first stance, like when he has the lightsaber. It's exactly how Obi-Wan like carries himself in A
Yeah.
New Hope.
Like,
Cool.
like it's,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you can look at there's like a GIF that compares them, and they're almost very obviously different speed, but the moves and choreography is very similar. Good on you, Rian Johnson.
Yeah.
That was really smart. This was one of my favorite parts of it. And a lot of people didn't like this line, which is like, he essentially gives him, if you strike me down, I'll be more powerful. And he's just kind of like, I'll see you around, kid. And I'm like,
wrong with
that's very Luke now. Like he doesn't have to be a wise sage. He's kind of who he is.
Have they
He's-
not heard his dialogue from the other 3 movies?
Yeah.
4 if you count Force Awakens.
He's kind of
I was gonna go to the Tashi station to pick up some power converters.
Yeah, like
he's a dude. Like he's kind of just a dude.
he's a bro.
Yeah, and
like,
he's like,
he
yeah,
can say stuff like,
I'll see you around,
Like people,
kid.
that's a Han line. Like it's all these people don't. The only people who have like epic lines is like people. It's like Han Solo or someone like, or like they all talk like they're at a
Lando.
sports bar
Yeah.
or something. Like,
And also, they've chummed out together for 30 years. Of course, he's going to be, like.
I know the only one who has epic lines is like Ben Kenobi, where it's like, I heard 100 million voices scream out in terror. And they were
You're
suddenly
part of a bigger
silenced."
world.
Yeah, like he's the only one who has like sagely things.
Because he's
to
the
say.
wise old
And he
sage.
hated those lines, by the way. He's like,
Yeah.
please
Like,
kill me off so I don't have to say this shit anymore.
We're having 2 sequels.
Oh,
Damn it.
no. At least I
Can
can
I
buy
sit
that
down on a log?
At least I could buy that new chateau. But again, something so great that we could have had, we don't have in the follow-up, is Luke now being on Kylo's in Kylo's head now. Like, you struck me down, and now you have brought me into you now.
Oh,
Like,
that's
because
cool.
that's why he says, like, I'll see you around, kid. Now I'm in your consciousness. Now you can't get over it. So, that's the beginning.
I also think it's a great subversion. Is like a lot of people who wanted Luke in this movie wanted him to like be like a guy. Like I said the last Star Wars episode we did, like a guy on video game cheat codes who's just unkillable.
Yeah, like
Which is-
like he would do like a backflip and then like slice the heads off those AT walkers like with one stroke.
Yeah, or just like use his force power
He's
to
the
pull
level
a
99
Star
guy.
Destroyer down from the sky, and I'm like,
Star Killer.
yeah, just dumb.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is a great subversion because it goes back to what he said. Like, what do you think I'm going to do? Walk out with a laser sword and stare down the First Order? That's exactly what he does. Because
But in the way you
But-
don't expect.
In
Yeah.
cunning, he uses cunning.
yeah, and
But
I
it
think-
also takes all out of him. Like there's a toll, he dies from it.
yeah. Well, I mean, no one's ever done that. Do you think we'll ever see that again? That power? I mean, if we get more Star Wars movies.
I mean, if we got we got Force Ghosts. I mean, so we could do more projection, things
Yeah.
like that.
But
I don't know.
is it
There's a lot of
always-
projection in this movie.
that was pretty good.
Yeah, and then he sees the twin sons, and
That makes me cry still.
The leitmotif plays, and then his robe floats away. It's so good. It's so good.
I like the. I also like if you notice, like when Ren moves his feet, the salt comes up.
Yeah.
But when Luke moves it, it doesn't. Which is when I was like, oh, he's not really there. That's when I got it. But yeah, that's good stuff, man.
And then our heroes come together and escape.
We get a great hug.
Yep.
From Finn and Ray.
Ray.
And Finn and Poe have a weird like meet cute, like because keep in mind it's only been 2, maybe 3 days tops, and he's like, "Hi, I'm Poe." Like Ray, he's like,
Oh, I
yeah.
instantly shipped that. I was like, oh yeah, there's sparks there.
Yeah,
And then they even start it in like the next one. They're like mad at each other, and they're like, "What happened to BB-8? What happened to my ship? Or Han's ship?" And they're like,
the
"Oh, they
living
have
things, my
chemistry.
ship
I
over
like
here."
it."
Yeah, like that
I'm sorry you like that, Ryan.
because it's not in the next
Because you're not
movie.
supposed to.
Did you like that when you turned your brain off and cheered all the explosions? You idiot!
I did.
No, I'm kidding.
You fool.
You moron!
I liked it.
No, I just.
It made me feel things.
Do you remember the part where felt disappointment? No, do you remember the part where Finn was like, "Ray, I've always."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, she gets
Yeah.
together with Kylo Ren and they have that passionate kiss.
Yeah.
Remember how passionate it was?
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
I
it's
liked
not.
it.
You liked it?
I like the.
Oh, they hate that ship.
No, I'm talking about in Rise of Skywalker.
I know, but I'm responding to you by saying, "Oh, they hate that ship."
Oh,
in
yeah.
the Last Jedi.
I
Very
hate
good.
that shit.
Oh, they hate that ship.
But
I'll chase the Millennium Falcon.
so yeah, I like and I
like it.
we were talking about Broom Kid
they
at the
had-
very end.
Yeah.
There's a kid and he has force.
I don't care.
I like it because it just.
Everyone was like, he needs his own spin-off.
No,
I was like,
no, he
no,
doesn't.
what?
It's just an
No.
example of hey, the Force isn't a.
It's the Spider-Man effect.
Isn't a
Anybody can be
monopoly.
Spider-Man.
Oh,
Yeah.
we didn't talk about Ray's parent. Nobody.
Oh, it's great. It's awesome. I love it.
Ryan?
I
I
think it is
They were drunks.
the way it is presented.
drug addicts,
It's
it's so
more
funny.
directed towards the audience because Rey as a character does not care if her if her parents are these great leaders. She just wants to find her parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
We're projecting more about who they are
So
than she is.
the whole point of that scene in reality is telling the audience she's not Rey Skywalker or whatever, but Rey
But
wouldn't
she
be
is
upset
in the
about
next
that.
movie. She says, yeah.
And her being like, "There's nobody," is weird.
You're right. Yeah, and it's kind of like, Why would she? She'd be like, okay,
She
yeah,
already,
they were
already
bums, but they were
assumed
my
were
bums.
nobody.
Well, but
Because she didn't know she was great herself, and so
that's true. But she always wanted like a great destiny, and the idea that her parents are nobody who didn't love her. That's what hurts.
well, she already kind of knew that about herself. But I just find it
Well,
like
we don't know that. She's left as a little girl, but I mean, she doesn't know the reasoning. She doesn't. She hopes. And
She
prays.
comes to that discovery-
She hopes and prays they come back because she wants.
But
them to love
Maz
her.
tells her, "You already know in your heart they're never coming back."
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So she's already come to terms with that part. So at this point, it's kind of trying to find her parents and like try and get some kind of closure with it.
Yeah.
So she wouldn't necessarily be concerned with the fact that, oh, my parents are secretly another.
I mean,
I'm secretly twins with Kylo Ren, and I didn't know.
I mean, you can know that like they're not coming back, but still feel the sting when you're told like they're nobody and they didn't even care about you. Like that's still like they're not mutually exclusive. You can.
But I just
both
feel
of
like
them
it was more geared towards the audience when it
I
wasn't
agree. Yeah.
necessarily
I don't disagree.
appropriate. It wasn't necessarily appropriate for Rey's character to be as like
Devastated by
as
it.
the parallel to Luke, I am your father, where it's an obvious effect on what Luke saw as he had heard from Obi-Wan that his dad was this Jedi as a when he had heard
Vader
all
killed
along
him.
that he was like this spice miner or something, and there's like, oh no, he was a Jedi. Wait, never mind, he was this murderer that killed everybody.
Yeah, and is your mortal enemy.
Yeah,
and
so
now you're trapped.
That was an example of Luke's what he knew was actually wrong, and in this case, it's more of, well, yeah. Rey, I knew my parents are nobody, but now I'm upset about it for some
But
reason.
you wanted her parents to be somebody. You wanted answers to those. So what? Was it?
I fault The Force Awakens for that. I personally don't want. I would have foregone the setup of The Force Awakens, akinning to like. I would have foregone the setup of The Force Awakens, knowing who Rey was. Those like Han Solo and Maz and all these people saying, "Who's the girl?" or like, and just what girl? Like in The Force Awakens, Kylo Ren knows in The Force Awakens who she is, but in The Last Jedi, all of a sudden she's nobody. My headcanon.
I didn't really check that when I watched it. I just thought he was like, "What?" He's already mad.
Yeah.
It's like, "Oh, there's this girl too." It's like, "What girl?" Like he's already mad. Is the way I read that. But I guess it's.
But he does know
Could go either way.
the secret.
So in my like headcanon, if I had it my way, in Ryan's world, I would have it where
I feel like you paused there because we were supposed to laugh and we did it. And now you're devastated.
I was gonna say-
laughed at myself.
I was going to say,
You were like
it's
this.
Ryan's world. We just play in it.
You were like this. You're like in Ryan's world. Damn it!
no, but in my
Son of a bitch.
I always saw Rey as kind of like the second coming of like the chosen one. Whereas in like she herself is not special, but the Force has decided that like it's out of
Need help?
balance again.
It calls to you.
Yeah. It calls to her, and so she's kind of like the avatar that Anakin used to be for bringing balance to the Force.
And maybe
and
this
that's what
time
her
we can-
purpose is.
And maybe this time we can get it right because
she isn't a
failed Anakin
Palpatine.
and
She
it failed
isn't
Luke.
a Kenobi. She isn't a Skywalker. She is the ambassador for the Force to bring about balance.
and that can come from anywhere.
yes.
Yeah.
And so
So
you could come
but
to the
she's a
same
Palpatine.
conclusion in The Last Jedi that her parents are nobody, but I don't think she needs to sob about it because she never
I didn't
cared.
Very
mind
good.
it.
It's a very good performance, and that's another thing. Is like that's kind of why I get so mad about The Last Jedi being like Kylo Ren just being like, "Oh no, they were actually the Palpatines," and it kind of completely deflates the performance Daisy gives in The Last Jedi of just like, what do I do with this? Like,
Yeah.
what do you mean they were nothing? I'm nothing, and instead it's just like, no, I'm not. and it just completely. There are so many things about how good this movie is in terms of
I think I
performances
just
that get
love-
so deflated in the
Yeah,
next
I just
one.
like.
It's
I
disservice.
just. Yeah, she just does such a great job of making you feel terrible for her, even if you think that maybe she shouldn't. I think there is like a terribleness to destiny, like in the Joseph Campbell
Yeah,
ideology of like your destiny is a scary, terrible thing, and even if you realize, oh,
you
my
have to
parents are nobody.
sacrifice and be sacrificed on the pyre of destiny.
Yeah, and like
it's not easy.
I think there's a terribleness of like, oh, my parents are nobody and they didn't even care about me. You can still not like that. I think it's the way I looked at it. But I also agree that was my thing in the beginning is like, I still think at the end of Rise of Skywalker, someone says, who are you? And she goes, Rey. Rey who? And just be like, Rey nobody. Rey. That would be so much more powerful than like, Rey Skywalker. Are you happy now, Reddit fans? Yeah. She should be Luke's daughter. Like
now she is in spirit.
Yeah, you got what you wanted. Like so, like again, I always say fans don't always know what they want.
And even when, and especially when they get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Movie news. I know this is at the very end. We're getting a Snyder Cut trailer, 22nd.
All right.
Of August?
Yeah, August, because they skipped Comic-Con and they're doing DC fandom.
Like I saw that. Yeah, they're doing fandom.
Yeah, and Suicide Squad by James Gunn will have maybe some stuff there.
Cool. I saw some of like the clips of characters in costume for that, I think.
Yeah, they wished James Gunn a birthday. That's cute. Because he had a birthday, and then Margot Robbie and John Cena and Pete Davidson all were like, hey, happy birthday, man. And Nathan Fillion wore a big shirt with James Gunn's face on it. It's just weird.
That wonderful man.
Yeah.
I know we've run very long. This might be one of our longest episodes.
Oh no, like there's like 30 minutes it can go because that intro is just nothing. And this.
So
and this.
I guess in conclusion, like
I think it's a good movie.
I think it's.
I think it's
one of the best in the series.
I think there's shining gems in it that's kind of marred down by the other sums of its parts. Like I feel like it has the potential to be some of the best that Star Wars has ever.
I think the word that would be like ambitious but uneven.
Yes,
is what I would say.
I think that's fair.
If it had more of like it's already the longest movie, but if it like, ironically enough, if it had a little bit more time to breathe with some of the thoughts that it's presented with, and that if it had a little bit more time to explore like the ideas that are presented, I feel like it would be way more interesting. And if you just cut out all the filler, I would love it, even though it would leave some of the other characters behind in the dust.
Yeah,
I feel bad, but I would love what I was.
It would make for a smoother movie. Yeah.
You might not get your milkshake in the end, but dang, that roast chicken was really good.
Yeah,
that roast porg.
Matt, do you have a final thoughts as well?
I mean, the albatross that hangs on my neck with this movie is, it's got a lot of things it wants to do and it doesn't do them all successfully. It's got some moments that are really cheesy that don't really work for me. It's not the Star Wars movie I would show somebody to get them into Star Wars.
No.
It's a seasoned experience.
What movie would you show somebody?
Empire.
Just the first one? Just New Hope?
I mean, Force Awakens would be a great one to show. It's a very
Force
accessible.
Awakens is
Oh, just to get them into Star Wars, period?
Yeah.
And wouldn't they have to know about, I guess you don't have to.
Not really. I mean, they're talking a lot about legends in that, and it's kind of like, even if you don't know who Leia and Han are. But then you would
undercut like the Vader drop because they would know that Luke is Vader's father. So when
that's one of the hardest things in the world to keep secret from somebody.
I guess I'm sure everyone knows that by now.
You would have to
actually
hit them on the head with a hammer and then show them Star Wars immediately right after.
I've seen reaction videos of people who just
there's
didn't
new
know.
YouTube trends.
What?
Of Zoomers and really old people, both. Like they're both in that age group now, where like Star Wars wasn't the center of their whole universe, and so now it is becoming a thing now where people just don't know anymore that Darth Vader was Luke's father.
Those lucky parents that get to watch their kid be like, what? And it's like, yeah, when I grew up, I knew it when I was born.
I hope if I ever have kids, I can make it to where make it long enough without them knowing, so that they would understand what's happening on the screen and they get to experience it.
The worst thing that could happen is they're like, "This is boring." Then you're just like, "Well, I'm gonna have to dig some holes in the backyard."
Yeah. Get rid of them.
I killed them.
We saw him killing younglings. That's terrible. I think this is a very important movie for Star Wars, and I think it's also a very important.
It's a dividing line for a lot of people.
Cultural event. Like this is, I think it's a great way that Star Wars has looked in on itself, and therefore fandom has looked in on itself, and it has caused a great.
They haven't.
No. I mean,
they don't.
Like I said, it has caused a great war.
They're incapable of such things.
Well, it is. I loved calling it the most divisive film of in history.
It's up there.
It's up there among like one of the most controversial pictures of all time, and that's ridiculous that it has to be.
Yeah,
I think that's my sorrow. Is like,
I think that Rian Johnson.
Why is loving this movie a political statement?
Yeah,
like in certain circles, if I talked about loving The Last Jedi, I could get punched. Like it's pretty intense.
I think Rian Johnson knew that the fandom was getting quite polarized. I think he saw the reactions from Force Awakens and he was like, some stuff's gonna go down with this movie. I don't think this movie is perfect. We went into some negatives that we had, how it's the clunky philosophy that's like it's weird and incongruous. But
I didn't even get to DJ, where it's just like
he's bad.
The thing about DJ is like, oh, you can't trust everybody, and I'm like,
including me.
This wasn't thought out.
Didn't
well.
I tell you
love
not to trust anybody, Dr. Jones?
Like he's bad Lando. Like when Lando betrays them.
Bad Lando.
Yeah.
Well, when Lando betrays them, it's heartbreaking. You're like, oh, I like this guy. He's charming.
But then,
but then when Stuttery Porky the Pig, the character Del Toro, does it?
This guy we met in jail is untrustworthy.
Sorry, it's for the money. Yeah. And then you never see him again, which is, I mean, like, if you want to do something with that, or do something with that.
It's a weird performance too.
Yeah.
It's not.
I love seeing Benicio del Toro.
So do I, but I've seen him do stuff that's so good.
I don't need this character.
Yeah,
it's superfluous.
I think this movie is like, if we had to live in a world where everything is like super corporate and everything is completely like creatively driven,
complacent,
but like I'd rather take a flawed, ambitious piece than I would like a safe thing that puts everything and answers every questions. Like it is like, and that is Disney's thing. It's weird Disney made this because they also made Force Awakens, which felt very
corporate.
We gave it, a lot of praise, but like it's very formulaic. Yeah. It's very rigid. Everything, these are the same people that made like, a lot of these Marvel movies where everything kind of works out and it fits into a puzzle perfectly.
And I think what they did was they
made this.
They let Rian Johnson have his point of view and his stake and eat it too. And he's like, all right, I can't be blamed. Yeah. Like, I'm going to put these things to task and you're going to have to deal with it. Yeah. And they all said, we can't deal with it.
Breaks.
Correction.
Again, it made almost 1.5 billion, so it's a perfectly successful movie.
Yeah,
by any standard.
Again, Bob Iger is not sitting there going like, oh, I'm so upset.
Yeah,
about your feelings about Star Wars from one of my castles.
Yeah. And there have been people who made those dumb, like politically motivated, like critiques of this movie,
or those re-edits that are the most horrific thing.
Yeah, but there have been people who made those like video critiques or whatever that stumble upon a good criticism, but they do it for the wrong. Like we brought up some here. I think the idea is that like it's Star Wars is not just about like for Ryan, it's like you said, it's about how it makes you feel. And for some people, they just don't want to go in and have this perspective challenged.
Yeah.
I think that's a big part of it.
They don't want to be projected back at.
Yeah.
They want the projection to be a one-way street.
Yeah, they don't want a deconstruction. They don't want to hear about like, the price of war and stuff.
And I mean, there is an argument to be had of like, do we have to do the deconstruction in the main timeline? There's always like, you can play with deconstruction and everything in an alternate story set in Star Wars. But then it's like Star Wars has no teeth.
Yeah, then it's like you'll give it to the author who writes the books that like a few 100,000 people read.
Yeah, no one's
but the larger fandom is unaffected.
Yeah, and therefore, because the larger fandom is one of the biggest mainstream nerd fandoms, it's going to have no waves.
Yeah, and I think that Star Wars is all about like taking. You can do something that's, as we said, familiar but new, but take chances.
Yeah, that's what Luke George Lucas did.
Yeah,
he took an actual risk on a risky thing, and it ended up being one of the most famous pieces of modern literature.
Yeah, and if The Force Awakens is just a ripoff of A New Hope, A New Hope is a ripoff of fucking Flash Gordon and Hidden Fortress, and those things are ripoffs of serials that they were
Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, like I mean, at some point you got to just ask yourself, why don't you like the movie, and do you not like it for good reasons? Yeah. If you don't like it for good reasons, fine.
We talked about a lot of good reasons.
Yeah.
We also talked a lot about people's don't like it for very face value reasons, and that's not good criticism, and that's not good judgment.
No, and like I said last time, this movie especially, not just Force Awakens, has made me appreciate like a good argument.
Yeah.
I've read good arguments against this movie, which is like one guy said, I don't go to Star Wars to have like these points of views challenged, and trying to quantify the Force is only an endless ball of conundrums that will lead you to an unsatisfying answer. And he's like, I think the problem is this movie is well executed, but its foundations are just flawed. Like, and I was like, yeah, it's a movie about a ship running out of gas. Like, I mean, those are all valid critiques. I can't take away from those.
And it also suffers by being the middle movie in this. Where it's like, I think people were just like, I really, really wish that Disney and Abrams did not look at what Johnson gave them as a problem, but as like interesting. What can we do with this now? We're creative people. We're some of the rich creators and imaginations.
Exactly.
What if we just take this and make something out of it that would be more? Instead, they don't.
You hit the nail on the head. That is the most disappointing part. Is what we got was so uncreative.
Yeah.
It's just a hodgepodge of answers.
Yeah, because the one thing I don't think anybody can critique about Last Jedi is it ain't Empire Strikes Back. It's not formulaic at all.
No.
And so, like, he took a risk, and we found out who in pop culture, us viewers, if we like that, if we can handle risks.
Yeah.
And some people just can't handle risk.
Yeah. That's everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
This has been
Come at me, bro. No, don't come at me.
Come at me. You, Shapiro. We're talking to you. This has been The Movie Date with Rob and Matt. Podcast for people who like movies but don't want to be too smug about it. You can find us on iTunes and YouTube. You can find us on Podbean, the free Podbean app for your phones. Check it out. And maybe an Instagram will be coming up soon or sometimes. I think me and Matt talked about that.
Yeah, some social media thinkings.
Yeah.
You got anything to plug, Ryan? Or
I got nothing.
we're just so glad to have you here with us.
Join my Minecraft server of 2 people.
Thank you for joining us for this discussion.
Yeah,
Always a pleasure.
Maybe we'll do. Maybe you can join us for the Snyder Cut when it comes out if you want to.
Or if you
I have to watch the original.
Oh yeah, you do,
Yeah,
don't you?
yeah,
Because
it's
you
fun.
didn't see it. Yeah, if you want to.
And if you've got any ideas or anything, we'd love to have you on.
Yeah, for sure.
For
Yeah.
anything.
Would you like to be on our movies that are almost good episode? Think of movies that you think are almost good and bring them up.
I guess. I don't know. I can't think of any. I'd have to brainstorm that.
Brainstorm it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
we're the Burning Stones. But thank you guys for joining us. Of course, follow up on our other episodes and everything.
yes, our Batman v Superman episode is now the highest viewed episode.
Yeah,
just because I posted it on a couple places.
Rob's getting some networking done, and we'd love y'all to continue it out. And stay safe. Take care.
Yeah, I've been Rob.
I've been Matt.
I'm Ryan.
And
Yeah.
may the force be with you
Very good.
always.